The Hagmann and Hagmann Report for today. It's a manic Monday edition. It's Monday, the first day of December. Folks, can you believe it? December 1st, 2014. I'm Doug Hagmann, co-host with my son, fellow investigator, researcher Joe Hagmann. Together we are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. Folks, you're about to hear an incredible 3-hour program. Folks, you're listening to the only show where the news is presented to you in 3D. Now, listeners will be issuing your 3D glasses, perhaps 3D earpieces in the near term. We look well beyond the headlines and the bylines and bring you the news behind the news. We look well beyond the fog of disinformation, misinformation, misdirection, and there's plenty of it out there. There are plenty of shills, trolls, and all around people who want to take you where you ought not to go, because that's just the nature of things as they are today. Folks, we broadcast live each and every weeknight from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern. Our home base on the internet is hagmannandhagmann.com. That's hagmannandhagmann.com. We have the quote of the day up there, and also the show information button where you can hit listen live, and of course a button takes you directly to our show archive. We are also simulcast by the Christians United Broadcasting Network. There, tune us in at the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.com. You have to spell it all out, 2 N's on the word Hagmann or the name Hagmann. That's the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.com. Alternative listening as opposed to BTR. And I want to thank everyone for joining us. By the way, folks, let me just remind everyone that tonight's broadcast, portions of tonight's broadcast, are sponsored indeed by NatureBox. NatureBox, now they ship great tasting, wholesome snacks right to your door. I did take a picture, folks. I took a picture of our Thanksgiving. Now, we were live. I was live on Thanksgiving. Enjoyed the night off. He was out, in a tryptophan coma. But no, I'm just kidding. He had some family commitments so I was here. But I do have a picture of NatureBox snacks on our table being served, or right before serving the people, serving the dinner. And so forget the vending machine, the snack aisles, and the 7-Elevens, that kind of stuff. Start eating smarter, snacking smarter with wholesome, delicious treats. My favorite, of course, are the pineapple rings, and I like the blueberry almond crunch. Oh, they're so delicious. Support this broadcast by ordering a free, that's right, free, NatureBox sampler box at naturebox.com/CFP radio, or just go to our website and click on the icon on the bottom there. There's an icon for naturebox.com. That's right. Free NatureBox snacks are found at naturebox.com/CFP radio. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining us. We had a terrific show last night. Just unbelievable. Pastor James David Manning and Michael Massey, 2 unbelievably great men, and also Coach Dave Dobmeyer, who really spearheaded the interview. I was just back here turning knobs and pushing buttons, some, of course, improperly. But having said that, it was a fantastic show. And Joe, you heard part of that, and you were a part of that too in the background, trying to undo the things that I did. So
it was a fantastic show. Anybody who did not get a chance to listen live, I would suggest definitely downloading and listening to the archive, as the both pastors, Pastor Manning and Reverend Michael, got into some of the very detailed the terminology aspects. We see the marginalization, the statistics of how the African American community and the condition that they lived in, over the last 40 years compared to now, how much it's declined from jobs to the family. There's so much there, and it was about trying to restore relations between, the racial tension we see today. And it's definitely a show that you should listen to and spread around, because it was very important and very...
that's the kind of show that Fox and MSNBC and CNN should have. You let 2 black men, and they came around and said, look, color, it's not color, we're Americans. And I thought, how great is that? Talking about race baiting. that show is fantastic. So, folks, go to the archives and grab a hold of that show. And yeah, as Joe said, spread it around. It's off. The link's off of our Facebook account too. By the way, Hagmann Hagmann Report Facebook.
One other quick announcement before we bring our guest, Dr. Ted Breuer, on, is, folks, we've been doing this initiative for a few days now. This is a one-time deal. This is the only time we've ever, I think, sold anything. And what it is a limited time edition for the Hagmann and Hagmann Report for listeners who are able and want to assist us, and all the assistance is very much appreciated. But if you consider helping us offset our investigative research and broadcasting costs by ordering a shirt, a T-shirt, a V-neck shirt, a hoodie, we have at www.hhshirts.com for 15 more days. People can purchase a shirt, and a small percentage of the cost goes to our operating expenses. And it's a one-time deal only, and it's available for 15 more days, and that's at hhshirts.com. There's also a link off of our website, hagmanandhagman.com. But if you could, get the word out about this sale.
Yeah, good Christmas presents. By the way, we did not set that up. I just want to make that clear. We didn't set this up.
It was set up for us, and it was an experiment type thing, and we absolutely agreed to it because, there are so many gracious people out there who have contributed to our show via prayer, via monetary support, books, literature, other things. But this is, and we have bumper stickers we give away, pens, all kinds of different things, other shirts that we give away. But this is a one-time deal where you can help us and receive something in return. It's got a big Hagmann and Hagmann logo on it with our late dog King, may he rest in peace. Underneath it says the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, and then it has the website underneath that. You can go to hhshirts.com and find all the information there, different sizes, men and women, whatever colors. The options are there. But please check that out. It's 15 more days. That is ongoing, and we appreciate every purchase, and we thank you. But without further ado, let's bring on our guest, Dr. Ted Breuer. Ted, welcome to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hey, thanks, Doug. Hey, Joe. I'm going to order me a shirt as soon as I get off the air with you guys.
Well, thank you so much.
That's pretty cool.
Well, you're welcome. I mean, everybody listening should order one of the shirts to promote and support your airtime. I mean, they're just shows. Your shows are like priceless. I mean, I don't even know what to say about this. I mean, how many people actually have the opportunity to hear real news, real information from real broadcasters and people that have no ulterior motive? I mean, this is just absolutely wonderful to be back on your show again, and I feel just blessed beyond measure, shaken down, pressed together, running over, that I have the opportunity to share my little part of what I know with you guys and with your audience tonight. In fact, we're going to talk about Ebola. We're going to talk about type 2 diabetes. We're going to talk about the Galilean dialect. We're going to tell you about transdimensional beings. We're going to go into detail on how to lower blood pressure, cholesterol, triglycerides, blood sugar levels, and whatever else you guys want to talk about. And we've got to get together. We all have to work together as Christians. I'm a born-again believer. I got saved back in 1979 while in graduate school at Florida State University. And I tell you what, my whole life changed after that. And I said I've been just absolutely blessed. I've spoken to over 1 million people at live seminars. I've been featured on thousands of radio and TV talk shows. I've been blessed to have shared the platform with President Bush and Barbara Bush and Colin Powell and General Schwarzkopf and Larry King and Benjamin Netanyahu. The funny thing is right now, though, I wish that I would have known back then what I know now, because I sure would have a whole bunch of questions to ask those guys, but they probably would have thrown me off the circuit and told me to pound salt. And so we're going to have some fun tonight. We're going to get a lot of information out, but I want everybody to grab a piece of paper and pencil if it's safe for you to do so if you're not driving a car, because I'm going to give you a lot of really good info tonight, a lot of inside intel, and what we've done to help people to stabilize adult-onset diabetes is one of the easiest things to correct through diet. We're going to talk about that tonight, too, and the same thing with high blood pressure, which is ridiculously easy to correct without taking a bunch of drugs like statin drugs. And the last time we were on with you guys, remember, we covered the top 10 foods never to eat. And if you guys want to, we can go back over that again. But I think you wanted to go over Ebola first, didn't you, Doug?
Yeah, if possible. And folks, you can find Dr. Breuer's appearance as well he was recently on Coast to Coast and, of course, on our program as well now. After the show, sometime between 11 p.m. Eastern tonight and 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern tomorrow, I'll have the first show that we did with you as well as this show together under the guest section. So, and links to. But by the way, folks, you can go to hagmann.com on the right-hand side. We have linked our site to Dr. Ted Burr and Dr. Ted and Sharon Burr's site, Health Masters, and from there you can just learn so much via the articles and the reports and all that. But yeah, you know what? The first thing, if we could just start out, and by the way, I'm hanging on. I mean, I'm sitting on the edge of my chair with respect to talking about statins and all that. I mean, this is so important, especially as we get toward this whatever's coming. You know, who knows what's coming, but whatever's going to happen, we need to be physically and mentally and spiritually prepared, obviously, and you can help us in that regard.
Well, that's a. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I'm going to back up too, because I did post your video. I think it's a 28-minute video. This is a while back. You were on a program talking about Ebola, and that I posted that. And I can't tell you how many people downloaded that broadcast and watched it via our site. It was incredible. You were just so articulate with Ebola. So I kind of wanted to start out with that, if you don't mind. Give us your thoughts on this Ebola virus disease, EVD, and what's going on. What's the truth here? Everyone wants to know.
Well, here's the reality of it. Professor Dr. Francis Boyle from Harvard, he basically wrote the Biological Weapons Anti-Terrorism Act of 1989. He basically says that they put the laboratories in Africa after 1989 to circumvent the laws that he had written with the Biological Weapons Anti-Terrorism Act, because in the United States, if they were doing this research, it would be life in prison. Now, remember, these are level 4 biosafety, level 4 quarantine facilities. They're in Guyana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. And Liberia and Guyana are not party to the bioweapons research laboratories as far as through the 1989 Terrorism Act. He basically says that these are biological warfare protocols that are being used, and that the CDC in Tulane have been there since 1988, and also Colombia has also been there. And he said that there appears to have been a genetically modified strain of Ebola developed to be airborne to some extent. He says it looks as though they may have actually. Now, this is not me saying. This is Dr. Francis Boyle. He's saying it looks like Ebola may have been mated with a common cold virus. Sierra Leone is so upset about this, they shut down the laboratory in Guyana, accusing them of starting the pandemic with the immunizations they were giving them under the supervision of Tulane. And, I mean, this is a nightmare. I mean, this is not something that is going to go away. Right now, we know we have a 21-day quarantine period supposedly for this disease. The World Health Organization says it needs to be up to 42 days to try to prevent 98% of it. We had all those people on that cruise ship. We've had all these people coming to airports and dying and bleeding out. The New York Times says the government said the White House will no longer do deadly biological studies. We'll talk about that in a few minutes from now. We also want to talk about how the CDC has shut down bioterror and food labs after discovering 327 vials of deadly pathogens have been misplaced, including smallpox. Because remember, smallpox is the most deadly pathogen on the planet. Then comes Ebola. Then comes bubonic plague. When I was at Florida State University, I took a class called it was a biochemistry class, and what it was interesting. I spent over 400 hours in the biochemical genetics class in laboratory alone for that one class, and I got extensive research and background in the handling of hazardous waste products and bad products and what needs to be done. And it's interesting to me how we have a disease that's a level 4 pathogen being brought into hospitals in the United States and put into their quarantine facilities and their basically isolated wards, and we think that's okay. A level 4 pathogen requires basically a spacesuit with a positive airflow coming from an umbilical that you tie in after you go through like 3 levels of decontamination. What we're doing with Ebola in this country right now is a complete and total joke as far as how we're trying to quarantine this stuff in hospitals. And if they decide to turn this stuff loose, if they haven't already done so, and really let it wreak havoc in the United States and globally, we won't be able to control this stuff in the United States in these hospitals, especially with these open borders. That's why I want to cover this with you real quick on the top 6 reasons that we put together on why the Obama administration won't close the borders. And I want to get your feedback on each one of these, because I tell you what, guys, we're in this thing kind of like in a planet. And I love the stuff that you do the one fellow who's the what's his name? I think it's Paul. He's the pastor that you guys have on, Paul McGuire.
Pastor Paul Begley, or Paul McGuire is the prophetic expert who is also a speaker and a author.
Yeah, Paul McGuire. Yeah, I love his stuff because he's absolutely right on the spiritual aspects of what's going on this planet with the good versus the evil. Of course, it's been like that since the beginning of time. And so the reality is that, we've got some serious stuff we're going to talk about tonight, some real heavy stuff as far as, how we're made, what frequency we are as humans, how frequency affects us. We're going to talk about a lot of different things tonight, and plus we're going to talk about this Ebola. But we do have our website. It's at healthmasters.com, and we also have a book. Can I give out a real quick phone number for the book we have?
Oh, please.
Yeah, I've got a book. It's called Breakthrough Health. It talks about the top 10 drugs never to take. It goes into detail on how to lower blood pressure, cholesterol, along with a whole bunch of other information in there on Gardasil vaccines for mass immunizations and also for sterilizations. And so you give us a call. Our office is there. If you have any health questions, it's 1-800-726-1834 to order the book, 1-800-726-1834 to order the book. In addition to that, we've got a program called Eat, Drink, and Be Healthy, and that's a 6-CD set that takes you through a systematic process of lowering your blood pressure, cholesterol, all those things, and that's at the bodybyted.com website, bodybyted.com. Okay, let's go ahead and start on these 6 reasons that we're not dealing with Ebola like we should be dealing with Ebola. Now, this is a very difficult thing to talk about because there's really no positive upswing on this. It just, no matter what you do and how you look at it, this isn't a happy topic. I much rather I really do enjoy doing the top 10 foods never to eat because I can tell jokes with that. This is really hard to tell jokes with because it's just that bad. The first question that many hosts have when we do these shows, Doug, is why is the administration unwilling to close the borders of the United States to foreign nationals from infected countries? Even Piers Morgan has gone against, pretty much everything that we all stand for has been slamming the president here lately. We got the EV-68 coming in by the trainload out of South America. This is typical Cloward Piven, which is, of course, what they're doing now, with the United States trying to completely break it down with their social welfare systems. And, of course, Obama did tell us that he was going to transform America, which is exactly what he's done. France, England, Saudi Arabia, a whole bunch of countries, Australia, 20 African countries, including third-world dictators, have now banned people from coming into their countries from Ebola countries. But we continue to allow. So here's the number one reason that we feel as though, or I feel as though, that the United States is allowing Ebola to come in. Complete and total incompetence. One of the first protocols in a pandemic is to stop the infected people from infecting others. The head of the CDC is just plain dumb, I guess, for not insisting on this method months ago. The old French term, cordon sanitaire, in which you have to go in and you have to rope off and block off and section off the areas that are infected, basically doesn't seem to apply with this administration. So the first one is complete and total incompetence. What do you guys think about that?
It's a whole boatload of incompetence, if you ask me. Okay.
The truth is, Doug, I don't think it's the first one. I just put this one in there. I think they know exactly what they're doing.
I in a way, I hope so, because to imagine to ascribe incompetence to this would mean that we are so far down that we're so far gone mentally. Even the smartest people can't figure this out. So, I would put that down further in the list. But is it possible? Sure, at some levels, obviously. The list is in no specific order. I'm not saying this is the number one reason. And this is the one that I hope this one's not right, because if they're really that stupid, okay, and they think this is okay. God help us all. He needs to help us anyhow, so we're in a mess anyhow. But gosh, number 2, the CDC owns the Ebola patent. When Canada tried to send medicine to us last summer, it was refused over intellectual property rights. Whoever develops a vaccine will probably make hundreds of millions, billions, if not trillions of dollars. And people have to understand that it's like the CDC is kind of like the Federal Reserve, in which is a quasi-government agency.
and it's not really under control of the government like the Federal Reserve really isn't under control of the government. So I'm not sure if they'll be allowed to keep the profits made from the vaccines, or if this is just another giant follow the money trail. Let's see who can make the most vaccines and make the most money out of this. Since the vaccine manufacturers in the United States, since the law was written back in the 80s, preventing them from having any liability whatsoever if they kill everybody with an Ebola vaccine, they can't get sued. And so it's kind of a mess, really. Well, what do you think about number 2?
Wow. Okay. I mean, I'll stipulate. I'll stipulate that possible. I mean, well, when I say possible, we could probably do a whole show on just that topic.
That's right. But no. I wanted to throw all of these out at you guys tonight. So if we've got any call-ins, we can answer phone calls. If you want to just bounce us back and forth between the three of us, we can do that. But that's the interesting thing about this is with the whole thing with the vaccine money, because Bill Gates has already thrown a whole bunch of money into that, which brings me to number 3, the Rockefeller, Bill Gates, George Soros eugenics protocols may be moving forward. The thing that these guys don't get, though, this is what's crazy about this, Doug and Joe, microbes don't discriminate. They just want a warm body who's a good host. Many of you don't even realize, the people in America don't even realize that this George Soros eugenics protocol Bill Gates is even going on. This topic is so well documented, it'll be easy to find if you look it up online. Of course, your listeners already know all about this. Good grief, you guys cover this all the time. Bill Gates has said repeatedly that vaccinations can be used for population reduction. It causes infertility problems. They've gotten in trouble for using a tetanus shot, which causes HGH to be attacked by the body in pregnancy in Kenya. We've got all kinds of other things with Gardasil causing all these infertility problems. So in order for this to move forward, this is a good example of basically why we would leave the borders open to other countries that could come in here and basically reduce the population. Our government, as of today's date, basically are handing out about 100 travel visas a day from the infected countries. That's how patient 0 got to Dallas. Even considering this option, if it's even plausible, it's horrible because, we've been working on these bioweapons for years and years, and we really think that we weren't going to eventually use them. But this is one of those that is pretty high up on the list if it's not a combination of all of these combined together as far as what they're trying to do. Number 4, this is another interesting one. Look, the administration basically is afraid of being considered racists because their religion basically is communism, socialism, Luciferianism, whatever you want to call it. It's all about the same. The current administration is concerned about offending these other countries by closing the borders. See, they opened the borders in the southern United States last summer. We've had tens of thousands of people come in. We have brought a respiratory virus in, which can be completely genetically tracked back to Central America. Basically, we are afraid that we're going to offend these other countries. Well, what about our country? What about our own children? What about our own economy? I mean, Congress has a 7% approval right now. Apparently, the only civil rights that are still available for illegals, and hopefully common sense will help to permeate these liberals, fluoride, statin drug-induced brains that don't have any reasoning skills left. And I mean, but then again, I look at what Lincoln did. I mean, a lot of people think Lincoln was a hero. A lot of people think he was a tyrant. But I know that he had 20,000 civilians arrested, and I think it was 1862. He never gave them, a trial. They were just locked up, kind of like what Obama's done with the different things that he's doing as far as with the Patriot Act. And the craziest thing is Lincoln also had people starving to death in the concentration camps he called prisoner of war camps. And let's not forget what Sherman did when he marched to the sea, and how Lincoln destroyed so many of the rights of the United States and ended up on the penny of the country's currency. But number 5 that we're looking at is that this is an interesting. I want to pass this on by you guys. The lobbyists who are hired to run basically the diamond mines and to lobby for the diamond mines in Sierra Leone have spent a lot of time and money to keep the borders open. Obama has said that the government of Liberia would collapse if they were to basically prevent them from coming into the United States. What's interesting about this is I bet most folks who are listening didn't know that Sierra Leone mines some of the highest quality diamonds in the world. And remember, a lot of these corporations have interlocking corporate directorships. The same companies are either controlled or run or even owned by almost everybody. In fact, I sent you guys a link earlier today which basically said that, a lot of the stock market being run up right now is from the banks taking the money from the Fed and buying the stocks and the blue chip stocks. This is exactly what happened in the Weimar Republic in the early 20s, which made everybody hate the bankers so much, which led to the seeds of Hitler and basically led to the entire Nazi takeover of Germany. Also remember, we have a shadow government that's in control of Obama. That's real important that we understand that. Of course, we know that. And remember this: the Federal Reserve Bank is who we owe most of our trillions of dollars to. Now, this is going to get real interesting right now. The Federal Reserve Bank was started by the Rothschild banking interests, who also funded and founded Cecil Rhodes, who started De Beers. De Beers is the primary buyer of diamonds out of Sierra Leone from Barry Steinmetz, who runs BSGR Diamonds. You can go to the New Yorker magazine on July 8th, 2013 issue and read the article, Buried Secrets by Patrick Keff. And this article reads like a spy novel. By the way, it also talks about Steinmetz and his ties to George Soros. It also talks about bombing the president of Sierra Leone's home and trying to kill him. But regardless of all the international intrigue, there are billions and billions of dollars on the line when it comes to these diamonds. But, then we have to ask ourselves another question, Doug. Why are we sending combat troops there? Are they to protect the people, or do they maintain stability in the government to guard the diamond mines or the oil reserves, the gold reserves, or whatever they have there? We're basically guarding the poppy fields, for the heroin production in Afghanistan. I mean, this whole thing is just nuts. I mean, so we've got a whole money tie in here with diamonds and reserves. The thing I don't really understand, and this is kind of interesting to me, is if they kill everybody with Ebola, who's going to buy their stupid diamonds? I mean, that's the thing that I'm just trying to convince to the people listening tonight. I mean, if they're this crazy, they're going to basically kill all of us with Ebola or reduce the population by 90%, which is their stated goal. Then basically, who's going to be able to buy all this stuff from them? Number 6. Now, you guys, I want to drop this one on you guys too. This is something worse is about to happen. Now, I heard you guys on Alex a few weeks ago, and you guys were saying how a lot of times the media will use obfuscation. In other words, when something bad is happening somewhere else, they bring into the news something else to direct the news someplace else. And when that happens, we basically end up with people that are, breaking news stories that really have no relevance whatsoever because something else is about to happen. I mean, I don't know if we're having something called learned helplessness to the masses, which people simply can't concentrate on all these things at once, so they give up, and then we end up with medical martial law and under the United Nations, and everybody accepts a new world order. I mean, or listen, there's another interesting question for you guys. Does Obama want his night of the long knives like Hitler had when he killed all the political opposition? Or hopefully it's not his Kristallnacht, in which the Christians and actually the Jews were just absolutely just eviscerated, their synagogues burned in Germany. Or just as another concept of the Hegelian dialect, the problem-action solution that basically we were taught in our school system starting from Leipzig, Germany in the 1800s, which Pavlov and the rest of these boys with skull and bones decided to take our school system and turn us into a bunch of Pavlovian dogs and do the old operating classical conditioning techniques on us. I also have a degree in psychology if you guys want to talk about this tonight from Florida State. And so what's interesting about all of this, what's interesting about all of this is could it be a combination of all 6 of these items? Or is it all of this stuff combined together? I mean, this stuff is such a mess. I mean, what do you guys think?
Well, I think what you said, all of this being combined together, it seems to be what it looks like to me. You have multiple agendas by multiple powers. As you said, the president is a puppet. We have people from banking industry, military industry, who are in political industry, who are powers that are unseen, that move what we see in real time, such as on the news and the events of our day. But there's people, powers, and agendas behind these that make these things happen or let these things happen in a way where they do intertwine with each other. And something you said, if we can, to Tulane, there's a bioweapons lab tied to Tulane and to George Soros, which had something to do with a World Health Organization spokesman who died in the plane crash from a Malaysian flight in the Ukraine. I don't know if you want to get into that, but we
we can't. If that plane really crashed, or if he's really dead, if those people's bodies weren't planted, I mean, this thing is this rabbit hole is so deep, it's ridiculous. I just read a book that was interesting. I don't know if you guys have read it or not. It's by Colonel Philip Corso, The Day After Roswell. And this was an interesting book. I read this book, and he talked about the beginning of the shadow government back in the early 50s after the Roswell, spaceship crash. And it was interesting because this guy's pretty well documented, and he's very, very high up in the government to be saying the things that he said as far as coming forward and making this book, and this book became an international bestseller. But the craziest thing, he said the shadow government's been going on since the late 40s, early 50s. And basically that's the reason that Eisenhower warned us about the military-industrial complex and how some things are above top secret and that even presidents of the United States are not told. And what we have to all understand, and I'm going to get kind of, for you guys who are listening who aren't Christians right now, then this is just something that's going to just kind of go over your head. But, this whole thing is about good and evil. This all goes back to Genesis chapter 6. With the Nephilim. It goes back to Genesis chapter 6 with the fallen angels coming down and doing genetic experimentation on human beings, God having to wipe out the planet with Noah to clean up the DNA, and basically these people and these beings still running around, still doing the same things, because Jesus said, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be upon my return. And the thing about it is we have a great deal, it's like almost like we have a giant evil presence floating over the United States now. I think Michael Savage called it like a giant Dracula floating over the United States. He was doing an interview the other night. He didn't call it the Cloward Piven strategy. He called it the cloven hoof strategy. And what's interesting about that, I had to quote him on that because that was just too good to let go. And I think called the cloven hoof strategy, which deals with the Satanism again. And so we've got a major, major spiritual battle going on in the United States right now that if we don't take authority over this, at least try to stop and slow this thing down. I realize the book of Revelation is going to happen, but I believe God has given us the ability to slow these things down and slow down this progression if we stand firm in the Word and against what's going on. How do you guys feel about that?
Well, yeah, we've got to stand in the gap, obviously, and part of this too. And I don't want this to sound like a non sequitur or whatever, but part of this whole thing that we're dealing with is an information war, a war of information. It's guests like yourself to get the real truth out there that people need to listen to, understand. And you glossed over something that I think is so important that people really need to understand. And we talked with Paul McGuire about this, with Steve Quayle about this, other guests, as in the days of Noah. What exactly does that mean? And people need to understand that it's about the DNA, it's about the blood, it's about and how that affects future events, folks, is of course, the great deception that is coming, and the mark of the beast, for example, will affect. I have every reason to believe, based on my research and listening to others, that mark of the beast will in fact affect your DNA. But having said all of that, you went through some pretty heavy.
I know, Doug. I figured I'd just dump it on you guys, let's deal with it.
Yeah, it's you're 100% correct in all of this. And going back to what you said a couple of points ago, I really, when we look at this, I think people have a tendency to apply Occam's razor too frequently. For example, there can be more than one explanation. There can be more than one reason. There can be more than one tactic for an objective that they're going for, and I think that's what we're seeing play out today. Of course, meaning to say that, for example, we could use Ebola as a smokescreen, but yet Ebola can be used to call the population. And in answer to your question as well, who would be left to purchase the diamonds or there will be a slave class, I believe. In addition, we're the middle class is the target of everything, and whether it's the economy that's being used as a weapon of war, and I think it is, any number of things. But the bottom line here is you're going to have two classes of people, the kings and the serfs, or the kings and the people who are subjugated by the kings, and the population. The useless eaters, I think, are being targeted. We saw this, and people have to understand, too, the whole AIDS story, the meme about the AIDS and the narrative. People have to understand what that's all about. So, all of this combined, everything you mentioned combined, is just so incredibly important, every single point. And I don't want to dwell on any one specific point. I just want to let you keep going, but just to reinforce what you said.
Well, no, and you're absolutely right. This whole thing is basically a multifaceted approach of tearing everything down. if the folks who are listening go to healthmasters.com, I posted 35 articles there. You get them completely for free on Ebola and what can be done and what's being done and who's doing it on Ebola, including the Center for Disease Control, the CDC losing all of those vials of those pathogens, including the 87,000 hazmat suits and body bags and the 250,000 body bags being brought to Dallas. I mean, this is a mess. Also, we go into detail about how the government has shut down experimental biological, basically warfare laboratories, if you want to even believe that, because of the loss of all these pathogens. But all of these articles are there, and they're from reputable sources, as far as I know, as far as what we've been able to do our research on. Now, there are some things that you can do for your immune system, and I don't want to leave everybody hanging saying, oh, my gosh, what are we going to do? Here's what I want everybody to do. There are several products that you can take that are really, really very important to build your immune system. And we have these at the healthmasters.com website, or you can call us at the 1-800-726-1834. And what the products are, you need to be taking potassium iodide every day. Now, everybody listening to me should have a stockpile of potassium iodide just in case of some type of nuclear disaster with a nuclear reactor, and God forbid some nuclear war or whatever happens, okay? Potassium iodide is critical. You need 13 milligrams a day. Studies have shown it almost completely stops the risks of breast cancer, which most people don't even realize that. It's one of the best supplements to take every day. And plus what it does, when you eat and drink fluoride and chlorine and bromide, which is in all the breads and almost all the baked goods now, if you buy the junk stuff and don't get the organic stuff, what ends up happening, these are halogens. And what they do is they compete with iodine to be absorbed into the thyroid gland. And they mess up your thyroid gland, causing endocrine disruption or glandular system disruption. Very, very unhealthy. So you need to be taking enough iodine every single day. A lot of people now are using sea salt, which doesn't contain additional iodide, which was mandated by Congress way back when because of the people having problems with their thyroids. But the fluorine and the chlorine have to be completely taken out of your water. You can only do that reverse osmosis or steam distillation. I personally prefer the distillation systems because you separate the water from all the trash, and that's what we use, is steam distillation. I've been drinking distilled water for over 30 years. If you're concerned about the slightly acidic pH of the distilled water, you can take some Redmond Redmond deep underground salt. It comes from like 5,000 feet before it gets all contaminated under the ground. Mine salt, Redmond mine salt, and you can put like a tablespoon in like 15 gallons of water if you have a tank on your distiller, and it'll completely change the pH of the water and not make it slightly acidic, though I don't think it's going to be a problem because we eat foods that are alkalinizing. In addition to that, you need to be taking vitamin C every single day. Several articles that have been written that are on my website that we have, the ones that you can get for free there. Basically, they talk about how in orthomolecular medicine, now they've now begun to realize that when you use intravenous vitamin C, you can kill all viruses, including Ebola. That's what they say. I'm not saying that. That's what they say. And what's interesting about that is vitamin C intravenously converts into hydrogen peroxide and basically sterilizes everything as far as killing viruses. So one of the best things you do, I have a vitamin C IV about once every 2 months just to keep my body and my blood cleaned out. In addition to that, you need to take between 4,000 to 6,000 milligrams of a pH-neutral vitamin C ascorbate every single day. And that's super critical. Every morning I get up and I don't drink coffee anymore, but I use a thing called a purple stick. And what I do, they taste great. It's like a green tea beverage, and I basically drink it every morning. It contains a bunch of vitamins in it. I'll dump about an extra 2 grams of vitamin C in it when I stir it up in the morning to get a big dosing of vitamin C every single morning. Number 3, D.
Wait. Hold on, Ted. So 4,000 to 6,000 milligrams per day of vitamin C,
yes.
Right? Is what you recommend?
That's correct.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
That's really important. And guys, don't go to your local giant superstore and buy the crap they make in China. Excuse my language. I'm so fed up with that. All this stuff that we get out of China now is awful. And you get all this stuff that's contaminated with all of this stuff. Get a good nutraceutical vitamin C. That's really, really important. Number 3, you've got to do this, so important, at least 5,000 IUs of vitamin D3 combined with vitamin K every single day. D3 by itself is okay initially, but you need to get one that's combined with vitamin K. I take it every single day. And I tell you what, guys, I never get sick anymore. I don't catch colds. I don't catch viruses. I don't catch anything. I mean, I'm always healthy. I always feel great. At least once a year I'd catch a cold. Since I've been doing this, I've never had a cold since I started doing this. Now, there's 2 more products. If you do start getting a little bit of a sore throat, you can take immune support and another one called Viagraphic, which is specifically designed to go after viruses, immune support biographics. But that's a 5-product stack that you can take that you need to keep on hand all the time for you and your family. And the first 3, you need to be taking those every single day, in the morning, in the afternoon, whatever you want to do. And you'll be amazed when you start taking the potassium iodide and that dosing, you'll actually get your thyroid to start working right again. It helps you to burn body fat. Your energy starts going through the roof, and you feel absolutely wonderful all the time. I mean, I'm 59 years old. If you go to the bodybyted.com website, you'll see pictures of me there, my wife, and we work out 6 days a week. And like I said, I don't drink coffee, and it's late at night, and I still feel great. I mean, it just has to be that way with me because this is what I do for a living and what I tell other people to do. But those are the 5 things that you can do, and try to stay away from as much stress. The other thing, too, is, guys, every morning my wife and myself and my 3 children who are still at home, we pray together. We pray together out loud. And it's not always convenient to do it, but we always take time to do it. You remember, we can't make any time. We have to take the time. Because when you start the morning out with prayer and you ask God to reduce the amount of stress in your life and you ask God for what you want, not what you don't want. In other words, you don't say to God, "Dear God, please don't kill me today." Well, why don't you pray, "Dear God, please protect me today. I station your angels around me, your heavenly angels, your good angels around me." If you do that, you pray what you want, not what you don't want. You'll be amazed at what happens in the universe around you. I know Oprah Winfrey, she did that show a few years ago called The Secret, and they basically took some of the principles of God's Word, and they kind of like took Jesus out of them, and they said, "Here's what you need to do to be successful." The reality is God's been telling us that for eons of time, because I give set before you today life and death, and he says choose life. I mean, he's been telling us what to do and trying to help us along by giving us his word for thousands and thousands of years. The biggest problem with Christians today, we become impotent, and we don't know how to pray. We don't know how to release the dunamis, the dynamite, into our lives, and we don't know how to change the fabric of space-time by the words that we speak. And once you understand that you're an energy being, is what we're made out of, energy, then biochemical behind that, and our body is held together through a mineral matrix in this hologram that God put us in that gives us authority over what we're in. Once you understand who you are, you'll start praying, and you'll start praying on a regular basis because you can literally control the fabric of space-time around you and your family, but you've got to be doing it in the aggregate to do it as a nation, and you have to be doing it every single day to make a difference. And a lot of people, Doug, they start praying, they don't see a difference with the next 1 or 2 days, and they don't see any choice. They don't get any difference, and they give up on it. You know, if you confess all this negative stuff around you all of the time and you've built this horrible life around you, why do you think if you say 1 or 2 happy prayers that it's going to go away the next day? I mean, you've got to build and break that stuff back down and build another wall around you of protection. And that's how I look at prayer. I mean, because prayer is super, super important. And I tell you what, God spoke to me personally in a dream about 4 years ago, changed my life completely, and from that day forward, I've never been the same. And I've only heard from God. It wasn't an audible voice; it was in a dream. And I tell you what, it got my attention, and I learned very quickly the power of prayer and the power of God is as real today as it was yesterday when Jesus Christ was walking this planet. Because remember, there is no locality in consciousness or in your mind as far as space-time. And once you understand that as far as how energy works, you begin to realize why it's so important to say the things that you want to have happen in your life. And I'm not talking about blab it, grab it, claim it, that kind of Christianity. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about praying the provision and the protection of God upon you and your family. It's so, so, so important, Doug. It's so important, Joe. It really, really is, especially in times like today.
I totally agree with you, and you know, people have prayer ADD, and a lot of times
I'm included in that.
Well, yeah, I mean, we all are, and we're programmed that way. Wow. Okay. Now let me ask you a question, and folks, Ted, our guest, Ted Brower, his website healthmasters.com, linked off at hagmanhagmann.com and Body by Ted as well. Also on the right-hand side of hagmanhagmann.com, I did put up his book as well as the telephone number. Please use it judiciously. Let me ask you this question, Ted, and you did not, and I just want to reaffirm this, you did not ask me to ask this, and we're not soliciting anything here out of school, but the products you mentioned, from the potassium iodide to the vitamin C to, you know, the packets that one should take. Now, obviously, if someone wants to, first of all, can we do you sell these? Because
yes, of course.
Okay.
And and since you're doing that for me, I'm going to do something for everybody else. A percentage of all the proceeds that come in from the book sales from y'all show tonight, if you guys will do it on your T-shirts, I'm going to do it for you too. I'm going to tell the listeners right now, I'm going to give a percentage of what we get in. It's going to go back to you guys because you're doing this fundraising right now, and I appreciate you guys that much. So you didn't say anything to me. We haven't talked about that, and that's the kind of stuff that I do all the time. That's why. Here's the thing that we have. If we all work together to promote one another and to promote organizations that actually believe what we believe, what's going to end up happening is we're all going to be blessed. We're going to be able to get the word out even further and farther. And but yes, we do have those packets. We have the potassium iodide, we've got the vitamin C, we've got the immune support, we've got the Viagraphics, and we've got the D3. And it's the same products I personally have developed and that I take from my family and my whole family takes that we take and that we have through healthmasters.com. If you call that phone number, the 1-800-726-1834, what will happen is you'll basically be put on an operator tonight. We've got people standing there if you want to order that package of information for the it's not information, it's product. For the immune system, we have that available. And, of course, all of the website has all of the free articles that we talked about on healthmasters.com. And I have a free newsletter you can sign up for, too, while you're there.
I'm doing that now, as a matter of fact, signing up for your weekly newsletter. Because, truly, folks, you can see the photograph of Ted and his wife. Actually, if I took my sport coat off right now, I would look like that. Okay, I just keep my sport coat on because I don't want to embarrass anybody. Yeah, right. Getting back to the product that you do take every day, is that a one size fits all? In other words, could my wife take that? Could I take that? Could my son take that?
The vitamin C depends on body weight. Sometimes 4,000 to 6,000 milligrams will cause bile intolerance or get diarrhea from it. If that happens, you got to titrate the dosing back down until the diarrhea stops. But everybody can take 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams a day. That's what I take every day because I weigh about 200 pounds, and so I basically do the best I can to keep myself healthy. Now my wife doesn't quite take that much, but we both take the same amount of potassium iodide. And if we start feeling something in our throats, if we don't feel 100% right, we take the Viagraphics, and also we take the immune support, which are great. But I tell you what, guys, that's the biggest. Every time we've had somebody tested, literally every time we've had somebody tested for D3 levels, we'll send them to their doctor, give us your D3 levels. If they're not taking a vitamin D supplement because of the chemtrails, because of the global dimming that we have, because of the lack of sunshine, their D3s are almost at zero. And see, what happens is vitamin D stops what's called the cytokine storm in the body, which causes the massive inflammation. And basically, that's what happens with Ebola. Ebola, basically, according to these orthomolecular specialists, is your body stops utilizing vitamin C properly, and the cells start to break down and fall apart because the collagen is held together by the vitamin C. And if you have sufficient quantities of vitamin C, that doesn't happen. That's why the vitamin C IVs, according to these guys that I've read online who are pretty credible, they said that it'll stop any virus, including Ebola. And of course, Dr. Rowan went over there a few weeks ago, and he tried to do the ozone therapy with the blood, and they promptly threw him out of these countries. And he said that he thinks the reason that he was thrown out because they're getting so much aid now from other countries around the world trying to combat Ebola. They don't want somebody to come in there and cure Ebola. So, I don't know if that's all true or not, but I know that's what Rowan said on a talk show. In fact, he was on with Alex when he said it. And the craziest thing about it is if we don't all realize that there's natural alternatives to stuff. It's like with statin drugs. Cholesterol is necessary to maintain testosterone levels in men. As your cholesterol drops under 200, all disease rates, including cancer, goes through the roof. They go much higher, particularly cancer. And when you don't have high enough cholesterol, you cannot produce testosterone in sufficient quantities to remain a man. You become very limp-wristed or very feminized. And so it's the same thing with soy protein. When you're using soy protein, you have a tendency, because soy is an estrogen product, it'll feminize young boys and young men. And when you're in utero and your mom's belly, and basically you the first trimester. Let me start back. In the fall of 1975, I took an embryology class with Dr. Visa at Florida State University. And it was interesting because he said that all mammals, when they're conceived, are conceived as female, including human beings. And what happens during the first trimester, you have what's called cellular differentiation that occurs because the woman starts producing testosterone because the boy has a Y chromosome. And the ovaries become the testicles, the clitoris becomes the penis, the breasts don't become breasts, they stay as a chest muscle. And when you interrupt that endocrine cycle of these hormones by adding exogenous estrogens into the food supply like bisphenol A or soy products or all these pesticides that we're exposed to, you basically have a tendency, if you get high enough concentrations, to chemically castrate the young boy in utero. In other words, that little boy never develops the secondary sex characteristics he's supposed to before he's born. His brain doesn't transfer from a right brain-dominated hemisphere into a left brain-dominated hemisphere, which is what boys have. And if the thing that happens, if they are born okay and you put them on soy protein, then what ends up happening, within just a few months on soy protein, the brain turns back to a right brain-dominated hemisphere, and the little boy becomes feminized. That's why we've got an entire generation of men now that are basically, what do they call them, metro boys? I mean, they don't really know what they are. You can't really tell what they are. I mean, I went to a Florida State football game this past weekend. I couldn't believe all the metro boys that were there. I thought, dear Lord, what? Well, they're not necessarily homosexuals. They're confused. Does that make sense? They're confused.
Yes.
I mean, they're not a true male. They're just, they're born with the genitalia much smaller than normal. They're born with the right dominated hemisphere. They like to go shopping instead of hunting. I mean, the whole thing is weird. And see, that's what we've done. We've done that with that bisphenol A that was in all of our food and the plastics and the microwave wraps since the late 40s. And what's happened is we feminized the entire culture. And they knew what they were doing. They took the same biochemistry classes that I took. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew how it would affect you in the endocrine cycle with little boys that were being in utero. They knew exactly what would happen when they did it. They know that fluoride makes you servile and infertile. They know that. They know that chlorine is a halogen and it messes up your thyroid gland. They know everything that we know. They know that tricyclic antidepressants they put Robin Williams on, they knew that caused suicide, and Robin Williams killed himself. I mean, the craziest thing is you see all these people committing suicide on these tricyclic antidepressants, and these drugs are never talked about as the primary cause of this. We've got all these soldiers that are committing suicide after they get out of Afghanistan and after they get out of Iraq, and so many of them are taking tricyclic antidepressants with a black box warning on the box that says these products could cause suicide. In fact, in the Breakthrough Health book, I've got that listed.
With the
I'm sorry, guys. I was ranting.
No, that's okay. I just had a question while I could remember here. With the stress that post-traumatic stress syndrome causes a soldier, adding a SSRI or antidepressant type medication to that already disturbed mind or hurt mind, what kind of damage can that do additionally? Aside from or is that something that could help it? Are there medicines out there that could help it? Through the pharmacy.
Let me tell you what the SSRI does. The serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Okay, this is like Prozac. Okay, what they do is this: they take. I want to explain this from a neurochemistry standpoint, so it makes sense to everybody. When you make serotonin in the brain, you only have a certain amount of raw material to make the serotonin. Okay, the serotonin is that feel-good chemical in your brain. Now, it's released into the cell and basically sits there for a short period of time. It makes you feel good. Now, then the cell takes that serotonin that's in that system and it recycles it to make more serotonin. Okay, that's how it works. Now, what's interesting, I'm simplifying this, but that's how it works. And what happens is when you take a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, it lets the serotonin stay in the brain a little bit longer with some people, giving them temporary relief from depression because it elevates serotonin levels. But here's what it does. After a period of time of taking that serotonin reuptake inhibitor, it decreases the raw materials that are there to manufacture more serotonin. And so the serotonin goes even lower than it was before you went on the SSRIs. And so what ends up happening is your body then just kind of shuts down and your brain shuts down and you become extremely depressed and suicidal. And you start having these horrible suicidal thoughts, and a lot of times you carry yourself out and you hang yourself like Robin Williams did. I wrote a book years ago on this exact topic. It was called, and I don't have it for sale anymore, but you can get it online used. It's called Maximum Solutions to ADD, Autism, and Learning Disabilities in Children. We also cover the same information in our Eat, Drink, and Be Healthy program at the bodybyted.com website, and it's all updated. But what it is this. I had a guy call me up, and we talked about the problems with these serotonin drugs and why they cause suicide. And I was still doing counseling at the time, and a guy called me up, and he's crying at the office. And I said, "Look, can I help you?" He goes, he wouldn't stop crying. He goes, "I just got this book. I just learned that this Prozac product causes children to commit suicide. It's on the label." And he goes, "I don't know what to do." I said, "Well, why are you crying?" He goes, "My son went on this drug a month and a half ago, And after he was on it for 2 weeks, he hanged himself, and he's gone. And I just got your book in the mail, and I had ordered it like 3 months ago, and I just got it in from your publisher. And he goes, I don't know what to do. My boy's gone. And he was just crying hysterically. And I have heard this from so many parents, and I've read about it in so many case studies where these people killed themselves. Now, here's what you can do to get rid of mild to moderate forms of depression, and it works even better than Prozac, and it doesn't make you want to kill yourself, for heaven's sakes. You can get a really good high-grade fish oil product. We carry one. It's called old-fashioned cod liver oil, and take a tablespoon of that every single day. And what it's been shown to do is more effective at reducing mild to moderate forms of depression than Prozac is initially. And it doesn't cause any side effects long-term wise, except it makes your heart healthier, it makes your body chemistry healthier, it makes you feel really good, and it helps to stabilize hormones. Secondly, you can take a product called 5-hydroxy-L-tryptophan. That's super important because that's the precursor, the chemical precursor to serotonin. And when you take the 5-HTP, it helps your body and your brain to have sufficient quantities of serotonin so you don't get depressed. Thirdly, you need to be taking a methylated B vitamin that allows your body to absorb the B vitamins. About a third of the people now have been so tampered with and altered and genetically messed up from all the diseases and drugs that are going around, they can't even absorb B vitamins properly anymore. They have to be methylated, and then an additional amount of B5 and B6. If you take those products together, I have seen it like in 99% of the cases, get rid of mild to moderate forms of depression almost immediately within a week. I see it all the time. In fact, if you read on my website, I have a good friend of mine. His name's Mike Florentino, and I think I may have changed his name now, but he told me I could use his name. And he talks about how he was taking the serotonin reuptake inhibitors. His son had died on a motorcycle accident, and he basically ended up getting on these drugs, wanting to commit suicide. Then a friend of his brought him to me because we were mutual friends. Him, his friend, I knew his friend. His name is William. William brought Mike to me and said, "Could you please help my friend?" And Mike came over to the house, and I said, "Yeah, I can help you, Mike, but you got to listen." So Mike did exactly what I told him to do. He worked with his doctor in weaning off his prescription drugs, and it took him about a month, 2 months to start feeling difference. Now, 4 or 5 years later, Mike's a new man. I mean, it took about 3 months to really start feeling good because the drugs were so addictive, because they're dopamine releasers on top of everything else. You get super addicted to these things. So the reality is this drug got out of his system, and now he feels great. And I've seen it happen over and over again, guys. But the point is, you can't keep doing what you've done to get to where you are and expect any different results. If you're taking 25 different prescription meds a day, which I have seen that. I have seen a person come into my office back when I was in practice as a nutritionist here in the state of Florida. I've had a guy come in one time and try to take it was a grocery bag, had 25 different prescription drugs in it, and dumped it on my desk and says, "Can you help me?" I said, "Dude, you need to go see your doctor who gave you all this stuff. I can't take you off this stuff." And I said, and the reality is that this stuff has interactions that you don't even know about. And I said, you got to get off these drugs or find a doctor who'll take you off of these, who's licensed to prescribe these drugs, so you can get off of all this stuff and start doing the nutrition route. The same thing I tell folks, if you're 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds overweight, bad does it have to get before you start making healthier choices. If you got high blood pressure, depression, and diabetes, diabetes, maybe you need to change your diet and start exercising. And I'm not talking about changing your diet and going on a diet. I'm talking about changing your lifestyle and starting to eat healthier foods. Does that make sense to you guys?
Personally, yes. Yeah, I had, just on a personal note, Ted, I've got adult onset. I got type 2 diabetes, and of course, that's from sitting in a van eating pizza for breakfast and peeing in a coffee can. I mean, not to be gross to people, but surveillance is not very glamorous. But the bottom line is, you're right. It is a lifestyle choice. What you eat, what you take into your body, and indeed, and I got to tell you, sometimes the cure, or not the cure, but the treatment, the glucovage or whatever type of medication you're prescribed for type 2 diabetes, for example, as well as the statins, it's worse than it just exacerbates everything. And
I'm going to tell you how to stabilize. I'm going to tell you how to stabilize your blood sugar. Okay, I'm going to tell everybody listening. I don't normally do this on the show, but I'm going to do this on it. I'm going to tell you exactly what to do to stabilize blood sugar and how to help maintain healthy blood sugar. We're not treating diabetes. We're not getting rid of diabetes. I'm just telling you how to maintain healthy blood sugar, in case anybody's listening who shouldn't be listening, okay? Here's how we do this. It's super, super easy, okay? Number one, you realize that drugs have side effects. One of the side effects of metformin that's used for adult-onset diabetes is pancreatic cancer. So you've got to make a decision if you want to take your drugs or not take your drugs. That's important that you understand that. Now, do not come off any drugs by what I've told you tonight. That's very important. You work with your doctor in doing what he thinks you need to do to titrate your dosing down or try a natural lifestyle change. That's important. Number one, here's what you do. Drink half your body in fluid ounces in distilled water every single day. If you don't know where to get a distiller, go to healthmasters.com. We have great distillers. Okay, that's what I drink every single day. So if you weigh 200 pounds, drink 10-ounce glasses of water a day. Don't drink them. Don't try to guzzle a gallon before you go to bed or 100 ounces before you go to bed. Spread it out throughout the day. Super important. So if you've got the coffee can you're using the bathroom and sitting in your thing, you're probably using your coffee can more than your tin cup, okay? But the point is you got to get that stuff flushed out of your system, and water is a universal solvent. It helps to reduce everything in the blood. That's why a lot of times when you do fasting blood sugar ratings and everything else that you do, they don't want anything by mouth after midnight because they know what water does as far as reading the blood chemistry. So number one, water. That's super, super important. Number two, go to your local supermarket and try to get your produce fresh as you can and try to buy it from people that are local instead of going to these chain stores and get lemons. They have to be fresh, organic if possible, lemons, not reconstituted lemon juice. And you use 1 ounce of lemon juice to 9 ounces of distilled water. You can mix it with ice, and you can also, before you put the ice in it, you can take like a teaspoon of stevia. Lemon is one of the best things that you can take to reduce and to stabilize and to help the liver to help stabilize blood sugar. Super important. Number three, get a good high-quality turmeric product. We got it on our website. You've got to take turmeric every single day. If I told you everything that turmeric does, you probably wouldn't even believe me. It's that good of a product. I take it daily. Every day I take turmeric. And what it does, the Journal of India, I forgot which journal, it was the Medical Journal of India, wrote last year that 100% of adult-onset pre-adult onset diabetics could be completely cured, this is their words, by using turmeric for adult-onset prediabetes. Super important. I'd take about 2 of those 3 times a day, Doug, if I were you. And then next thing on the list, you got to take your B vitamins, your methylated Bs. You got to take your vitamin C. You've got to take your vitamin E. That's all very, very important because of what it does to the body and to the arteries and to the organs and everything else. That's very, very important. And then you've got to cut out high glycemic carbohydrates. This is the hardest one for most people to do because they're so addictive because, again, sugar releases dopamine, and dopamine is very, very addictive. That's why some people say that sugar is as addictive to some people as cocaine is because of the dopamine release in the brain. I don't agree with that, but I know that a lot of people go through withdrawal symptoms when they get off of sugar. Now, what you need to do with sugar is this. No high fructose corn syrup ever. It never ever crosses your lips. It doesn't go in your body. So if it says high fructose anything on the label, you say, I'm going to pass. Don't do it. That's real easy. And one of the other things on my top 10 list of foods never to eat are trans fats. So if it says hydrogenated anything, it doesn't pass your lips. Very, very important. If it's high-fat luncheon meat and it's been smoked or been cured or has contained sodium nitrite, don't touch it. It never passes your lips. That's super important because what you're trying to do is avoid having to use too many pancreatic enzymes to digest all this meat. You rather use the pancreatic enzymes and the raw materials of the pancreas to produce enough insulin and to use the insulin you're already producing and to utilize that insulin much more efficiently. Next thing, we have a product called cinnamon extract. 1 to 2, depending on how your blood sugar is, 1 to 2 cinnamon extracts every single meal. And that's unbelievable what that does. Now, the rest of the high glycemic carbohydrates are no potatoes, no pasta, no bread, no white rice, and never drink juice. And you've also got to make sure you get off all fluorine and chlorine. That's super important because of the halogen influence. And, Doug, I have seen this work in every single person who has used it to stabilize blood sugar without one single exception when they listen. The only time it doesn't work is when they don't follow the instructions. Now, you probably didn't do that on the air, but that's how simple that is.
I was actually writing this down, taking notes. My goodness. Wow.
I've got a friend of mine. His name's Jürgen. He's German. I like to go over there. I get to practice my very rusty German from my mother. And what happens is, the other day I went over to see him. Actually, it's been about 8 months ago. I went over to see him. He's stretched out on the couch upstairs at a shop. He's got a German bakery here in Central Florida. stretched out on metformin. Feels awful. Says, God, Ted, I feel like I'm going to die. And I said, what's wrong? He goes, I've been diagnosed with adult onset diabetes. And I said, oh, man, you kidding me? He goes, no. He goes, I took this metformin. I feel absolutely awful. He goes, this is worse than having the disease. And I said, Jurgen, will you listen to me? Will you stop doing this? And I put him on the exact protocol I told you. And he sent me a text about 2 weeks later. He goes, I cannot believe this. My doctor was able to take me off the drugs. I feel like I'm 20 years old again. I have so much energy. That's the possibility that you have with adult onset diabetes. The same thing with ADD and ADHD. We had an 88% success rate with working with ADD and ADHD kids without the use of the drug Ritalin. Ritalin's a Schedule II drug in the same category with morphine, opium, Percodan, Demerol. Are you kidding me? Would you give a 2-year-old a shot of morphine because they were being hyper? Wouldn't do that. But doctors give kids morphine. Give them Ritalin all the time. Methylphenidate is Ritalin. Methamphetamine is the stuff they sell on the street. And again, we're all drugged. I was listening to Savage the other day on a talk show, and he was talking about how everybody in Congress seems to walk around like they're zombies, like they're drugged. And you know the sad part about this, Doug? How many people are on cholesterol medication? How many people are on tricyclic antidepressants? How many people are on fluoride, for heaven's sakes, that makes you servile and infertile? And we have all of these diseases and all of these drugs that are used to combat all of these, quote, diseases that are lifestyle choice diseases that basically we can correct by just eating the right foods and taking the right supplements and drinking the right water every day. It's so simple. But again, if you want people to go over to the stuff with you can give my office a call. It's 1-800-726-1834. 1-800-726-1834. I'm sorry I'm talking so fast.
No.
You start talking about this stuff, I get so excited about this because I know how much impact we're going to have on the millions of listeners that are listening to you guys tonight to make them realize they don't have to suffer with heart disease or diabetes or cancer or disease. See, that's not God's best for you. See, the devil comes to rob, kill, steal, and destroy. He's the one who comes to destroy you and basically runs around as a roaring lion seeking those whom he may devour. The sad part about it is we have been lied to so much by the mainstream media and by the doctors who don't even know what they're doing anymore, and the scientists that have been bought off by mainstream media that are owned by the same corporations that own the banks, that own the pharmaceutical corporations. They've taught us that it's okay to take 20 prescription drugs a day. They've given us a lie, and we have bought the lie hook, line, and sinker. That's why we're leading the world when it comes to heart disease, to diabetes, and cancer in the United States. That's why the leading cause of death in children in this country is cancer other than accidents. And we have the highest infant death rate of any industrialized nation because of this nightmare immunization schedule they put these kids on when they're born. I mean, that's what's going on, Doug, Joe. And so you get me all started on this health stuff, and I get all fired up because this is my field that I've been in for 35 years. And see, I've seen it over and over. And I used to get on top shows. I mean, Rick D's in the morning, top drive shows, KDKA in Pittsburgh. I used to be on top shows. You guys have a top show too, but I'm talking on terrestrial radio. When Clinton signed that broadcast thing back in the 90s, allowing Clear Channel and these other companies to come in and buy up every single network in that area, and they're owned also by the same pharmaceutical giants and the same banks who own everything, they issued edicts. They don't want the truth going out anymore. They had to stop mom and pop radio stations from telling the truth because the dissemination of information wasn't absolute enough yet. They couldn't control what Americans were thinking. I mean, you ask half the people now on the street, kids, who the first president of the United States was, they don't know. Our education is equivalent to that of Nicaragua now, for gosh sakes. It's horrible, guys.
Exactly. It is. And, I've got a cabinet full of statins and metformin and stuff. I'll tell you this, Ted, Joe, when I was first diagnosed with diabetes, with adult onset diabetes, we were out working, and I would buy Buffalo to where we live is a 90-minute drive. My symptoms were so bad, my blood sugar was so out of control, I would buy a gallon of iced tea. I was so thirsty. I could not. I would drink, I would drink the entire gallon of iced tea, and he was with me when we were driving, and I couldn't.
Remember those days, yeah.
I mean, there was no quenching of the thirst. There was the worst feeling in the world. And then I went through a period of puking my guts out. We had to stop every 10, 15 miles, and I would puke my guts out for a good, a month, 2 months, 3 months. And bottom line is I ended up losing, I think, 50 pounds over the course of about a month and a half.
In the most unhealthy way, possible.
Yeah. So I know of what you speak, and of course, the heart problems and all this other stuff. But it's not about me, it's about everyone else.
See, the problem is when you start doing, especially injectable insulins, okay, or when you have to elevate. See, a lot of times people have what's called syndrome X. That's why the cinnamon extract helps that so much. And syndrome X is that you have available insulin, but your body can't use it. The cinnamon helps to shunt it into the cell membrane and get it to be able to use it and get your cells to work right again. I had another guy, his name was Joey Albritton, and he was working with me. We were doing a remodel of my mother-in-law's house about 6-8 months ago. I came over there one day, and he was laying in the backyard underneath his truck, almost passed out. And I said to him, dude, what are you doing? And he goes, man, I don't know, Ted. And he went to the doctor's blood sugar is like 400, right? He goes, I don't know what to do. I got diabetes. And I said, well, maybe it's because you're drinking a gallon of soda every day. You think that might have something to do with it? And so I changed his diet. Oh, my God, he went through DT and withdrawals. I couldn't believe, bless his heart. He was shaking and everything else. Got him on the cinnamon extract, changed his diet, did exactly what I told him to do that I just told you guys to do. He calls me up like a week later and says, I cannot believe this. He goes, my energy's back. I feel great. He ended up losing 60 pounds and did it naturally over a 4-month period. Then about 2 months later, I have another guy come in. His name's Jay. He was in the military and with the VA, and he'd gained a bunch of weight. He comes in and he said, I feel absolutely horrible. I'm going to the VA. He comes in and goes, they tell me I've got diabetes now. They give me all these drugs. And I said, well, you got to do what your doctor says. Why don't you ask if we can try a natural protocol? He goes, okay. He went on the same protocol that you're on. This is all in the last few months, Doug. One of the same protocol that you're on that I just told you to use tonight. He called me up about a week ago, sent me a text. He had to come by and get some more supplements from the office. He's lost 60 pounds. His blood sugar's about 100 now. He says he has more energy than he's ever had in his entire life. He's a champion bowler, and now he's winning all these tournaments. And he says, I cannot believe how good I feel. He goes, here's a crazy thing, Ted. He goes, I've got all my friends on the bowling league. About half of them have diabetes like I had. And he goes, they won't listen to anything I say. And you know what I always say about that? I say, let he who has ears to hear, let him hear. Let he who has eyes to see, let him see. Because Jesus said, then I will turn and I will heal them. The reality is there's a lot of people that are listening tonight on your show that are going to listen, and they're going to turn, and they're going to be healed. And they're going to call you up, or they're going to email me, because I get these emails every day, and they're going to say, I cannot believe this. I feel great. My energy's through the roof. It's incredible how young I feel again. Now I know why you're 59 years old, Ted. You don't drink coffee, and you have so much energy all the time. And I'm like, yeah, it's just like that. I said the whole thing is there's just a few simple things you've got to do to feel absolutely great. And that's why in my Breakthrough Health book, I've got that whole chapter in there on diabetes and drugs that are used to treat diabetes and the side effects of the drugs. And then I cover the top 10 drugs never to use, including tricyclic antidepressants, for the reasons that I've already given you guys. And I named things and drugs and everything else in this book because I realize that these drugs have warning labels for a reason. Doug, see, here's what Satan wants to do to you, Doug. Satan doesn't want you out here doing this message anymore. He wants you to be gone. He wants to kill you. I'm telling you that right now. He wants to kill me. He wants to kill Joe. He wants to kill Alex Jones. He wants to kill all of us because we're out here telling the truth about what's going on. You can't let him do that to you. You've got to change the lifestyle, start taking the supplements, start drinking the water, and realize, get ye behind me, Satan. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I can have a proper lifestyle and hopefully get off of all these drugs, and I can work with my doctor to lower these dosings down. That's what God wants for you. He wants his best for you. And you've got to pray every morning that your blood sugar is perfect and that you feel absolutely great, and you thank God for your health. And see, if you do all of this stuff, God's going to reward you. But see, the whole point is the evil one, whether he's some kind of alien or some kind of fallen angel, whatever he is, okay, he's a bad guy, okay, and he's controlling a lot of the world's geopolitics through Luciferianism and through global worshiping of Lucifer. Even David Icke said in one of his books, and I don't agree with everything David says, but gosh, 90% of what he says is right. He says every time he uncovers a major player in this entire world intrigue, it always goes back to Satanism. Look at this pedophile ring. Look at Nicole Kidman's father. He was just murdered, and they were accusing him. He was under charges for running this big pedophile ring down in South Africa, or not in South Africa, in Australia. And the craziest thing is we've got to realize this isn't a battle of flesh and blood. Doug, Joe, this is a battle of these principalities in high places. God did his best to explain to us what was going on to the way that's we could understand it thousands of years ago when he gave us his word. But this battle has been going on for a long time in this interdimensional world that we live in, and this evil force that's trying to take over the planet, Lucifer, whatever you want to call him. Well, the other day I was talking about fallen angels. Some lady said, well, you need to get off that Christianity stuff. And I said, well, if you don't want to call him a fallen angel, call him a stinking alien. I said, whatever you want to call him some kind of, outer space alien. She goes, well, wow. She goes, that kind of makes sense now. And I said, well, do whatever you want to do, whatever makes it work for you. But the reality is this. We've got evil in our world that's so bad, it permeates, it's so bad that we sacrifice children. My God, what's wrong with us? And we allow this to happen. We kill all these kids with abortion. And then we got Bohemian Grove with these nutbags running around their satanic garb chanting chants to Lucifer. I mean, this whole thing is nuts. And if you don't see it as a spiritual battle and something that you can take authority over, then you're going to stand defeated in it. But we have to all stand together to support the folks that are out there telling the truth and making people realize that if we eat the right foods, take the right supplements, have the right lifestyle, when this thing starts to happen at the end, Doug, we don't have to worry about not having our meds. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. I just, when we come back from the next, from the break, I just don't want you to hold back anymore. I want you to tell me how you really feel.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, do not.
That's great.
This is fantastic information. People need to hear this. You've got really the golden, the key. I mean, you've got the key. This is fantastic.
Well, thank you, Doug. Coming from you, that means a lot.
We're going to go to our break now, Ted. We're going to take some quick words from our sponsors. We're going to come back, and we have a few listener questions through email that were sent that we're going to ask you, and we'll do that right after this short commercial break. Just want to give a quick shout-out to Constance, our international correspondence lady, and Karen in Rome, as well as everyone else who's out there listening who sent us emails tonight. Thank you. Christine, and anybody else I forgot to mention, I apologize. But we are getting your emails.
Constance, listening live from Bordeaux, where it's just after 3 a.m., wanting to say hello to you, Ted, and giving you a big thumbs up, by the way.
Thank you so much.
We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of this Hagmann Hagmann Report on this Monday, December 1st, 2014. We are joined by Mr. Ted Breuer, an explosive Ted Breuer tonight, talking about many subjects, health pertaining to health, from all the way from GMOs, getting into diabetes and the different top 10 drugs to avoid, as well as the truth about healthy foods and healthy living. Ted, it was a explosive. We're already at the halfway point of the show. We're at 9:25. You're just on a roll there. I'm going to start off this hour, if we can, by asking you a question from a listener. One question, this is from a man named Jeff. He says, could you please ask Ted to explain how much or to what degree lemon juice from the concentrate for real lemon it should be used to drink versus juicing real lemons? What is the trade-off when it comes to getting the most bang for your buck, I guess, is the question here. Real lemons or juicing, from the real lemon juice or juicing real lemons?
It has to be the real lemons. You have to actually. The other one doesn't work because the ionic exchange in the lemon's been changed. I can't remember if it's anionic or cationic, according to Kerry Reams, who was like an agricultural expert in this. He died many years ago, and he was the one who actually introduced me first to the lemon juice as far as helping control blood sugar. And he said that the only thing that will work is the real lemons that you juice 1 ounce per 9 ounces of water. That's it. The reconstituted lemon juice does not work, period.
Wow. For whatever reason, I didn't expect that answer. I'm not sure why.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Well, no. I mean, this is good to know. And people might be out there rolling their eyes thinking, well, you should have expected that answer. But when you think about it, I guess it does make sense anyway.
Yeah. It's a living food. It's live.
Right. Okay.
And another question from Kathy in Pennsylvania asks, Ted, can you stress to people that people should take potassium iodide, not iodine, as I saw some in chat saying as much. Some iodines will turn your skin permanently blue. Thanks from Kathy.
You'll be walking around like a Smurf.
Right. Well, the whole thing is that potassium iodide, you need to get a good reputable source. That's very, very important. Now, the thing as far as turning your skin blue, that she's talking about colloidal silver. I've never heard of iodine doing that, but colloidal silver will do that. If you get too high of concentration of colloidal silver on an ongoing basis, it can turn you permanently blue, and it will not change. You will be blue. You'll be the blue man. Okay?
I mean, okay, you're not kidding around, right? I mean, seriously? You'll have a blue skin tone?
Yeah,
really?
That's with colloidal silver. But you got to take a lot of it. But you can get. I had in fact, it was so funny. I was watching a guy one time on 2020 or one of those 60-minute shows or whatever it was, and they were. That's actually I used to watch mainstream TV. I don't even turn it on anymore. And he was so. It was in the. He actually turned blue, and he looked like the guy from X-Men. He basically was that blue. I couldn't believe it because I'd never seen it. I'd read about it in the medical journals, and I'll give you the name of it right now. There's actually a condition that is called. Colloidal. I'll look it up online real quick.
So unless you want to make yourself look dead during like a zombie apocalypse, turning blue and laying there, or turn into a Smurf,
that's
careful with
something. Wow.
Yeah, I've never heard that.
No.
It's called. It's called ARG. It's RARG. It's got that consonant in there. ARGYIA. The skin is grayish blue, and then he develops after taking too much colloidal silver, and basically you can read it. It's Wikipedia actually. It's ARGYRIA, and you look it up on Wikipedia, and they've got a picture of a guy who's turned blue from colloidal silver. And so it's pretty crazy when you actually see it.
What's your feeling on colloidal silver? I mean, in general.
I think it's a great product, but I think it should be used in moderation, and you should never take it every day. It's kind of like a last line of defense. I mean, it's a phenomenal product. I think vitamin C IVs are a lot healthier for you. I don't think that the colloidal silver could do anything near what the vitamin C IV will do, but the colloidal silver does a very, very good job. I've heard that it works well on Ebola, though I don't really buy that because it's not really it's more of a bacteria thing, and then not virus. Now, because I think the colloidal silver is better for bacteria infections and not for viral infestations. But once that cell, you have two different phases of a virus anyhow. You have the lytic and the lysogenizing phase. And when it goes to the lytic phase is when it starts replicating in your body and just taking over host cells and getting into your protoplasm. And that's what cell barriers are there for. But when the virus injects itself into your cell, it's kind of nuts when you start looking at this stuff under an electron microscope. How crazy this disease is when you start getting these viral loads in the cells. But the best thing for viruses are the biographics that we talked about, the immune support to build your body's own immune system up, and the three supplements that we mentioned earlier. The colloidal silver is the last defense thing that you should be using, and I have it at our website, and we have it in the house. And sometimes now what it does really, really well. You need to check with your doctor before you do this, as you can put like 1 drop of colloidal silver into some distilled water and use an eye cup if you have like an eye infection, and in many cases that'll help, without having to get expensive eye drops. But check with your doctor before you do that if you've got an eye infection. It's very important, and that's what I personally use if I ever have redness of the eyes or something like that. It makes a great eye wash, but you got to like 1 drop per eye wash cup, so it's super diluted. You can't even see color in it, and so that's the thing with the colloidal silver, but it's got a very specific purpose, but not to be used every day. But look up that condition that I just mentioned to you. I'm not making it up. You get colloidal silver too much every day, you can turn your skin permanently blue.
Gotcha. All right.
I know nobody wants to hear. I know a lot of the alternative news broadcasts have been promoting colloidal silver, and it's a great product. I keep it in my house. You need to buy it, but you don't need to be taking it every day. Vitamin C every day, potassium iodide every day. Okay, those are important. Those are real D3 every day, K2 every day, but not colloidal silver. Now I'll get my hate mail on my website.
well, join the club.
Yeah.
Okay. So your book, Breakthrough Health, that would be kind of our Bible then, in terms of our health Bible, in terms of knowing.
Yeah, let me give you some of the chapters. And by the way, we lowered the price on it. It was $25 when we first brought it out. We've lowered it $15. We did it today for y'all's listeners on the website. We lowered it today. The first chapter is called Bad Medicine, and I talk about drugs, and I talk about the Rockefeller drug cartel and how they took over medicine with their allopathic models with their medical schools. I talk about medical procedures, women's experience in medicine, iatrogenic studies. That's when doctors kill you by giving you the wrong drugs or the wrong procedure. It's called iatrogenesis, or the death of by doctors or drugs. And the craziest thing is, I don't know if it's weirder that thing actually exists or there's a name for it. There's so much of it goes on. It's hundreds of thousands of people a year die from that. Unnecessary surgical procedures, victory over PMS and menopause. My wife wrote this book, this chapter in here. She had an ovary removed about 10 years ago, and when she had the ovary removed, her hormones went out of whack. I mean, she went nuts, to be honest with you. I mean, for women, forgive me if you're offended by that, but she just went nuts. And I told her, I said, I can't deal with this. We've got to correct this. We put a whole protocol together for her to stabilize her hormones, and it did. It worked within about 3 weeks, and I had my wife back. But the craziest thing is that, when you go through menopause with women, it's very bad for them. It's bad for their husband. It's bad for everybody if it's a bad menopause, because their personalities can actually be altered from it. And so you got to realize that there's natural things you can do to help ease that too. Oh, also one more thing with women and men. When you go to the bodybyted.com website, we have a product called HGH Stimulate. I take that product every single day. It helps to maintain lean muscle mass in men, and it works as a natural Viagra in men without causing blindness and deafness, because it doesn't cause the breakdown of the auditory and the visual nerve. That's what happens. The auditory and the optic nerve can become degraded from the Viagra or the Cialis and actually make you go blind and deaf. So if it wasn't bad enough that you're having to take Viagra now you're blind and deaf, and you can't take Viagra anymore because of all the side effects. So use the HGH Stimulate for the natural Viagra. It's at the bodybyted.com website. Then we have a chapter in here on the dangers of immunizations, how to turn back the aging clock. Bisphenol A, we go into detail on that. Senile dementia and Alzheimer's disease, know the truth about what flu shots do and how they cause Alzheimer's, how they can cause senile dementia, and how all these drugs, Parkinson's, everything's off the charts now from all this stuff we're being exposed to. We talk about over-the-counter painkillers, how they can kill, how acetaminophen is one of the primary causes of liver failure in the United States, and it's almost all drugs coming across the counter. In addition to that, when you mix acetaminophen and alcohol, it even warns you on the label. This is like the nighttime cold relief NyQuil. It has alcohol in it and Tylenol in it, and it warns you on the label if you get too much of it, it can cause permanent liver damage, and you have to have a liver transplant. And then I've got another one called Dead Doctors Don't Lie, The Truth Revealed, the dangers of high blood sugar and high processed food diets, what can be done about the aging process, hair loss in men and women. There's some things you can do, but not a whole lot with the hair loss. We're talking about a natural Red Bull no caffeine alternative that works great. That's actually a beet powder that we have that gives you so much energy you don't have to do yourself. It massively increases blood flow. We have a thing on allergies, Parkinson's disease, healthy Americans kill profits for pharmaceutical companies, the eradication of the sick and elderly under the Obama program, prostate supplements that work, a simple remedy for joint and back pain, a recovery for diabetics, fructose findings, GMOs, weed killers, iodine or radiation exposure, HPV vaccines, how calcium should never be taken by men and rarely taken by women because it actually causes heart disease and atherosclerotic plaquing in men and in women, not as much as women, but horrible in men. Men never take calcium supplements. Alzheimer's solutions found in the Spice Cabinet. That's, again, using turmeric. It's phenomenal. Work with Alzheimer's along with vitamin E. Children's vitamins, good and the bad ones, what turmeric does, side effects of drugs, top 10 drugs never to use. These are just the chapter headings that I read you out of this book. It's that detailed, and it's not a bunch of fluff. Some of the chapters are only a page and a half long because I don't want to have to read 40 pages to find out what to do with something. So I just made this one just bottom line, bullet points. Here's how you get better. Here's how you feel great. Here's how you double your energy, double your output. Here's how you do it. And when you order the Eat, Drink, and Be Healthy program at the bodybyted.com website, well, we'll also give you one of these books for free. And also, I told Austin tonight, everybody who orders the book, I've got a book that I wrote a few years ago. We're overstocked in it. It's called Maximum Memory. And for when you order this book, I'm going to send you the Maximum Memory book for free. And the shipping's not going to go up. It'll be the $15 for the book plus the shipping is the same. We'll send you both books so we can get them both in the same envelope. So everybody who orders this book is going to get 2 books tonight for the price of one for $15. So I don't know what else I can do besides that, but I want to help as many people as I possibly can on the show tonight because the reality is, guys, everybody's been sold down the river here with our pharmaceutical corporations with all the drugs. I mean, haven't you turned the mainstream media on? If you ever watch it in the evenings, you watch ABC or CBS or NBC, almost every single commercial is a drug commercial. Have you guys ever noticed that?
Oh yeah,
and the reason that happens is you have these interconnecting, interlocking board of directors, and so many of these same corporations are owned by the media and owned by the corporations that own everything, which is what they did with the Weimar Republic. And if you didn't have precious metals or blue chip stock when the Weimar Republic started to hyperinflate its currency, and they stayed ahead of the inflation curve, the international banks did. They were the Rothschild banking cartel that did that to the Weimar Republic. When they did that, basically, if you came out of the other end of that, you didn't have any money. My mom told me they used to spend 40 billion marks for one loaf of bread. I mean, this isn't my great-great-great-grandmother, something I read about. This my mom told me about this. She also told me how if you said anything about Hitler, after their Kristallnacht and their night of long knives, that you would just be disappeared. And the next day they'd bulldoze your home. The next day they'd put sod out, and it's like you never existed. I mean, they would just go away. So after that happened 2 or 3 times in the neighborhood, she said nobody ever said anything about Hitler anymore because he had his Patriot Act, which was called his Enabling Act, and that's what we've done to our country. And if we don't watch this tyrant who they put in, this sock puppet for Satan, I call him, Obama. If we don't get him out of the office, get him impeached, and get somebody in there who's actually legitimate and take control of this thing from a spiritual standpoint, I'm telling you, this country is going down it's already starting to swirl around the ash heap drain of history, for heaven's sakes. And we're about to go down the drain on this thing. And the sad part about it is, guys, if Obama gets control of the internet like he's planning on doing it, because nobody else seems to want to stop him from doing any of his executive orders, because I guess we can't get enough people to override them. What's going to happen is we're going to lose the ability to have shows like this. And so the information that you're gathering tonight on this show may not even be available in a year from now because we won't be allowed to say this. I used to say this stuff on mainstream TV and radio all the time. Those shows are closed to me now. They're closed to all alternative health care practitioners because they don't allow us to go on and tell the people the truth. When I came out with my top 10 list of foods never to eat back in like 1990, when I came out with that list, it was so cutting edge. I was one of the first people to warn people about trans fats, about aspartame, about GMOs, about soy products, about high-fat luncheon meats containing sodium nitrite. I warned people about the methylxanthines contained in the coffee and how it increased the risk of breast cancer in women. I told everybody all of this stuff 30 years ago, and people thought I was nuts. Oh gosh, guys, I could tell you a story. I was on the number one show one time in Atlanta, and I talked about trans fats and how bad they were. And then I talked about how butter was better and olive oil was better. And Tulane University or Tufts University, or whichever the one who was there, they got all mad. They demanded equal airtime on this show with Steve and Vicky, and they demanded to come on the following week and rebuke and rebuttal everything that I had said about trans fats and hydrogenated oils. And within 6 months later, the FDA came in and required all labeling manufacturers to use and to label trans fats, which are like margarines and Crisco and stuff like that. They said they were so toxic they couldn't come up with a recommended daily amount because they were so bad for you that butter was better. And then Steve called me up. I did another show with him about a year later, and he told me, he said, the guys from it was either Tufts or Tulane said, "You're crazy. What do you think about that?" I said, "You're absolutely right. I'm nuttier than a fruitcake. I'm crazy enough to believe the United States doesn't have to lead the world when it comes to heart disease, to diabetes, and to cancer. I'm nutty enough to believe the United States doesn't have to have the highest infant death rate of any industrialized nation. I'm nutty enough to believe that none of these things are necessary, that we'd have to have 1 out of 38, some say 1 out of 60 kids in the United States now being diagnosed with autism." I said, "So if that makes me crazy, I stand convicted." And I said, "And by the way, I was right about the trans fats." And he started laughing because, "You're absolutely right. Let's do another show." And see, but all those shows, guys, are gone because what they do now is they make you tape the shows. You can't go live anymore, almost 99% of them, and they have got to pass it past their little review board before they can play it. They're told what they can and can't do, what they can and can't say, and they use that Janet Jackson thing when she exposed her breast during the halftime performance on one of their another satanic Illuminati halftime programs, that they use that to make people use delays now so they can control the dissemination. Again, more false flags, more false flags, more control. So now you can't even get on live talk shows and tell the people the truth, except for like you or like with Alex Jones or with Coast to Coast. And I was told last time I was on with Coast to Coast there were certain things I couldn't talk about. Now imagine that. That's Coast to Coast. I mean, the girl who came on before me was talking about Satanism and witchcraft, and I was told there were things I couldn't talk about. Now that's kind of crazy, but that's what happened. And the sad part about it is people need to realize you've got to be able to tell the truth. And if we lose our rights to tell the truth and we lose our internet rights, we're going to be hosed. I mean, we're not going to have any truth coming unless we know the truth already. See, the truth will set you free, but you got to know the truth. I remember one time I was at this fundraising thing for Florida State University, which I gave no money to, by the way, and I was up there at this house in the middle of nowhere in this plantation, right? And we had all these academics were there, and the one guy looked at me and he said to me, he had his nose way up in the air, and he looked at me, he goes, I just want you to know that education is the answer for everything. And I looked at him and I said, you've got to be kidding me. He says, well, no, it's the answer for everything. I said, no, it's not. I said, knowledge without application is meaningless. I said, you can learn the periodic table of elements, but if you never get in a chemistry class, you're not going to know how to use it. I said, it doesn't mean anything if you can memorize the encyclopedia if you don't know how to apply it to your life and make it practical. You know, Doug, I taught college. I was a college professor up in Tallahassee for 2 years after I got out of school up there. And it was interesting because I had kids come to me years after I'd quit teaching and told me that I was the only class they'd ever taken that had learned anything from. My nickname was the preacher teacher. And it was interesting because I started telling the people the truth about life. I mean, I was in my mid-20s. I mean, I'm battling the globalists back then. So you know what my reward was for telling the people the truth? They moved me to FCI, which is the Federal Correctional Prison in Tallahassee, and had me be a professor out there. I kid you not. And so I stayed out there at the prison for about a year teaching the inmates, who, by the way, some of them are very, very smart. And I finally said, well, by that time, Health Masters had taken off so strong because we've been in business now for almost 35 years. Health Masters had gotten so big so fast that I basically couldn't be doing that anymore. But I love teaching. I love being a professor. I love helping young children. I even enjoyed working with the inmates until one of them threatened to kill me one night because he got a bad grade. Then it wasn't so much fun anymore.
That's always a downer there.
Yeah, well, that really happened. And they have a telephone in the room with me, right? And I'm the teacher, and I told them, I said, guys, this guy got pretty mad the other day. And they said, well, there's a telephone right here. You pick up the telephone, and we'll be in that room within 30 seconds. And I looked at him, and I said, you know what? A lot can happen in 30 seconds. I said, are you kidding me? And but that kid got kicked out of the class. He wasn't a kid. He's a man. And then I finished my semester out there. But then from that point on, I always asked for an armed escort. But, silly me, I would just walk right through the prison complex carrying my briefcase and not pay any attention to what was going on because, I felt as though that, I was there to help them, and they might as well know that to start with. So it was an interesting experience. But I did it for a full year at the Federal Correctional Institute in Tallahassee, and that was it was quite an adventure trying to tell those people the truth, and then hopefully I got a few of them set free and a few of them got saved.
Fantastic! Wow, what a story, man! We've gotten so many emails here, Ted, at the studio about your topical matter. I don't even know where to start. Actually, the cartel, the medical cartel that's in bed with the government, in bed with the media. We're not getting the truth, and I agree with you. By the way, shows like this might not be available in a year. I often joke around that a lot of people, we've got ADD, very short attention spans, but I would attribute a lot of this to our health and our general, how we feel in general. I mean, there are days, honestly, that by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I want to just find a sofa somewhere or, a pillow and just grab my pillow and blanket and binky and lay down. I mean, it's like I'm wiped out. And folks, by the way, I mean, in the event you haven't noticed here, our guest tonight, Ted Broer, his website, healthmasters.com and bodybyted.com, both linked off hagmanhagmann.com.
His latest in case you haven't also Breakthrough Health.
Breakthrough Health. In case you haven't noticed, I don't think he's too short on energy and certainly clarity of mind and thought. So whatever he's doing, I certainly want to do. And so, but just by your appearance tonight, Ted, you're a testament to your own lifestyle and products and everything. So I just want to say that.
There's a lot of things you could say to me, and the reality is that's probably the highest compliment you could give me. And it's so funny because people come to my home all the time with my wife, and when you get that Eat, Drink, and Be Healthy program at the bodybyted.com website, we've got an entire cookbook thing in there that we give you that we basically teach you how to eat right. And people are always coming to our house, and they're always going, well, we really thought that when we came over here that you'd be eating weird like every night. It would be broccoli nut surprise. And, and I said, well, there's really nothing wrong with broccoli nut surprise. I said, but it's not going to be every night because I don't really care for that. I'd rather have a good old-fashioned steak. But the reality is they always shocked at how healthy we eat. I had a German relative stay over here with us for 3 months. She just went back last week, and she took my 14-year-old daughter with her, and she's going to be staying in Germany for the next 3 months. And what was interesting, it was kind of like a foreign exchange thing with my family. What was interesting, my German cousin came, she's like 19 years old. She said, the biggest thing I'm going to miss around here is your wife's cooking. She goes, we don't eat like this in Germany. She goes, we don't have GMOs over there. We banned them. She goes, but the food that you guys make here tastes so good. It's ridiculous. And I said, I know, Annalene. I said, that's how we eat. I said, we eat healthy, and it tastes great. And see, that's what people don't understand, Doug. They think you've got to deprive yourself and eat a bunch of junk. Tonight, my wife made venison. My neighbor's a big-time hunter, and he brought me a venison. He gave me some deer meat, and she made venison steak. And, it was like some of the best meat I've ever had. And see, so you don't have to think that you can't eat anything. This whole thing is you got to avoid pork products. That's real important. Bacon, sausage, ham, pepperoni, hot dogs. The Bible says not to eat pork, for heaven's sakes. I don't think you can do better than what God tells you to do to begin with. And then when you start putting the sodium nitrite in any luncheon meat, it reacts with stomach acid to form nitrosamines, which are one of the most potent gastrointestinal cancer-inducing agents known to man. Plus, you have an increase of 60 times higher pancreatic cancer rates when you ingest sodium nitrite on a regular basis. It causes pancreatic cancer. And so you really have to stay away from the high-fat luncheon meat. That's really important. But a good old-fashioned beef steak or beef roast, just try to get it organic without a bunch of antibiotics in it. It's actually healthy for you. And it's good for you. And so if you want to be a vegetarian, okay, well, just don't eat soy products because that's going to feminize you. And it's going to give you all kinds of problems if you're a woman with your menstrual cycles. It can cause fibroid tumor formations. And with little boys, it's going to feminize them, so don't do that. If you're a guy, it's going to feminize you. If you're an adult, it's a high probability if you eat enough soy or drink enough soy milk, you're going to get gynecomastia, which is enlargement of the breast tissue. I've seen that over and over and over again with these vegans who drink soy products. They literally have breasts. And the sad part about it is they had no idea when they signed up for the soy products that was going to happen. That's why soy is one of the top 10 foods never to eat. In fact, you can listen to the show we did with Doug beginning of the year, and you can hear the whole top 10 list in detail because we covered all of that on that last broadcast. It's linked to the same broadcast. And again, if you want to call the office, you can. It's 1-800-726-1834, 1-800-726 1834. You can order the book, and like I said, a percentage of the proceeds of the book tonight are going to be going to the Hagmann Show to help promote what they're doing. Because, see, here's the thing. Nobody understands how much time it takes to prep for these shows. Nobody understands how much work and how much staff you have to prep for these shows. The same thing with Alex Jones. Alex Jones has his products that he promotes. He has to do that because he's self-funded. And see, the thing about it is the Hagmanns are investigators, so they have to work full-time and try to keep the show going. So let's support them, and we have the opportunity to do that. And see, that's why when I heard that about buying the T-shirts or the sweatshirts from the company they talked about at the beginning, and a percentage is going to go to that, that's why I joined in with the book. Because if we all support one another, if we all stand with the patriots in this country, and we say, hey, look, we may only be 5% of the people that are awake that have been dumbed into a stupor with fluoride and chemtrails, but at least we have a little bit of cognitive skills still left, and we can at least try to tell the people the truth. Today I'm getting my hair cut, right? I'm getting my hair cut because I didn't know if you wanted to have us on Skype or not tonight, and I figured I had to get my hair cut because I have a full head of hair and it gets real bushy, right? And what's interesting, I'm in the barber shop, and this whole thing with Ferguson comes on with these guys getting shot and all the stuff that's going on, and all the evidence that's come out about that, and it's like a barber shop. So there's Hispanics and there's blacks in there and all that, and so we all start talking about all of this stuff, and then we start talking about globalists and GMOs and all the stuff, and they're all looking at me like I'm from another planet, Doug. They think that I'm from another planet, Joe. They think that they don't even know how to deal with what I'm saying because it sounds so foreign to them. They've never heard it. They don't know the truth about what's going on in the country. They don't even know what you talk about chemtrails. They think you got 14 eyes on your forehead, and they think you're some kind of weirdo. I tested my water, friends. I tested my water, the rainwater, 2 different tests. It's full of barium and aluminum. I had it tested twice. I'll send a link to you guys if you want. You post it.
Hey, Ted, is there any cesium-137 in there?
I didn't test it for that. And see, you say, well, are you sure you tested it properly? Here's what I did. I'm a chemist. I've got all these. I've got a minor in chemistry from Florida State. I took a Pyrex beaker, a 500 milliliter Pyrex beaker, fresh, brand new, nothing in it. I rinsed it out 5 times with distilled water, and I put it on my dock down by the lake so I wouldn't have any splashback into the container. I took 2 rain samples out of it. I sealed it in container beakers that are used for sampling that are completely pure, and I sent it to a company in California to get it out of this area so there wouldn't be any bias, and I had it tested for aluminum and barium. There were over 200 parts of barium and aluminum approximately in both the samples that I took of the rainwater. It was so high it wasn't considered safe by EPA. That's the rain from the stinking chemtrails. I didn't want to believe chemtrails. I didn't want to believe any of this stuff. But back in the 90s, I stood outside, I think it was 96 or 97 here in Florida. You look it up online, and they sprayed us with malathion because of the Mediterranean fruit fly. They didn't spray the groves. They sprayed everybody, the houses, the cars, the children, the pregnant women. They sprayed everybody with malathion, which is a neurotoxin and an estrogen product. They sprayed it on us trying to combat the Mediterranean fruit fly until consumer groups went to Tallahassee and filed a lawsuit, and a federal court judge stopped the airplanes from spraying us with poison. I know they'll do it. I've seen it. I know what they're capable of. It's malathion, and that's even worse as far as I'm concerned in the short-term exposure than the barium and the aluminum. But the barium and aluminum, because it's absorbed directly into the oil factory glands of the aluminum, is going to be a direct link to Alzheimer's disease. Haven't you guys noticed when you talk to people most of the time, they kind of just look at you like they don't even know who you are. They don't even understand what you're saying. They don't even respond most of the time. They just kind of stay there in a stupor, and that's because of all the drugs. It's horrible, Doug, Joe. It's horrible.
Yeah, I get that when I talk to my dad every day.
We're gonna fix it. We're gonna fix that blood sugar.
No, you're right.
There's more than that, but
I was explaining a situation in the gas station the other day. A guy found a dime on the ground, and I've always heard the fable that if you find a penny heads up on the ground, it's good luck. Well, this guy found a dime on the ground, and he kept telling me, and we were just standing in line. I didn't know this guy from the next guy. And he was telling me how this was good luck that he found this dime on the ground heads up. And I asked him, well, who told you this? And he looked at me, he said, what? What do you mean? I said, where did you learn this from? We could not get to the point where he understood what I was asking him. And, maybe it was, but yeah, with many people, the majority of public, it's like you're talking in a foreign language when trying to discuss some of the truth.
Zig Ziglar was a good friend of mine. I did 100 seminars with Zig. And in fact, I dedicated my first book to Zig. That one's called Maximum Energy, and that's a great book. Probably one of the best, most easily readable books I've ever written. And I talked to Zig one time. He told me it's kind of like the grandmother, the daughter who cut the end of the roast off before she put it in her roaster pan. And then finally they said, "Why do you do that?" I said, "Well, my mother did it." Well, they called Mom up and they said, "Why do you cut the roast in half or cut the end of the roast off when you put it in the roaster pan?" And she goes, "Well, because my grandma did it." And they called Grandma up, who's still living, and they said, "Why do you cut the end of the roast off when you put it in the roaster pan?" And she goes, "My roaster pan was too small." And but this thing gets passed down for 3 generations. That's the way you're supposed to prepare this. See, and that's exactly what happens in our world. See, because my mom and my dad ate junk all day, and they lived to be 80 years old, I'm going to eat junk all day. Well, the problem is when your mom and dad were born back at the turn of the last century, they didn't have junk to eat every single day. Most of them had gardens out back. And so what happens, they were eating organic food with no GMOs, and they weren't taking in 1,000 different pesticides and chemicals every day into their environment. And so they lived longer because they had a stronger mineral reserve built in their body, and they had more reserve energies, what we call it, reserve energy. And so they lived to be 80 or 90 years old, and they didn't eat the healthiest diet, but they didn't eat the worst diet because they got all that organic food when they were young. Now we have children being born with cancer, for heaven's sakes. They're being born with cancer. And I'm going to repeat this again. The leading cause of death in children aged 14 and under, other than accidents, is cancer. We have the highest infant death rate of any industrialized nation. Why is this? Well, we start giving them all these immunizations. Immunizations have been shown they don't even work for the first year. The only reason they give that baby a hepatitis vaccine is they're assuming the mother is an IV drug user prostitute who has hepatitis. I mean, the whole thing's nuts. And these children are dying, and their brains are bleeding. They're dying from hepatitis. I had a young girl just a few months ago. She had her daughter. She got the hepatitis shot. The daughter almost died with respiratory failure, which is one of the side effects of the hepatitis shot. So unless you're a whore or a prostitute, I guess the Bible calls them whores, or a prostitute who is an IV drug user who's infected with hepatitis, I really consider twice whether you want to give your child a shot, of hepatitis before when he's first born. I mean, it's insanity, Doug. Joe, it's insanity. Yeah. And the craziest thing, I remember when my youngest son, Austin Harrison, was born in the hospital. We were on the road. He was born in the hospital in Texas. And I remember it was the craziest thing you've ever seen. I told them, I said, no hepatitis shot. And now the other ones were like, the other two were midwives, so we had another hospital birth. And they go, what do you mean no hepatitis shot? I said, no hepatitis shot. Well, we always give hepatitis shots. No hepatitis shot. And they said, well, we're going to have to give a hepatitis shot. I said, you give a hepatitis shot, I'm going to own your hospital. I'm not signing a release. No, you're not doing that. I mean, I had to be that strong and that adamant about it. And then what you tell them, if you want to calm them down, you say, look, the pediatrician will take care of any and all immunizations this child needs. Okay? Well, that was simple enough. I don't do immunizations. Okay, we just keep the kids healthy. We give them vitamin C and iodine and Viagraphics and immune support and vitamin C every day. And the kids are super healthy. My 14-year-old, last summer he was 14. He wanted to start college, and I said, that's kind of young. Your brother didn't start college till he was 15. He goes, well, I want to start when I'm 14. I said, okay. So he took his college entrance exams and scored high enough on all of his college entrance exams. On his PERT test, he passed everything, including the advanced college algebra, everything, age 14. Okay, and so he said, I want to start college. I said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll let you start in the fall. I said, when you're going to, because you'll be 16, and next spring I'll let you start when you're 15. He says, okay. He went over there, so we took him over to the school, and he had to be interviewed by the guidance counselor and all this kind of stuff to sign up for classes. You know what they did, Joe? They offered him a job as a mathematics tutor at the age of 15.
Really?
I kid you not. He was offered a job as a mathematics tutor because his math skills were so advanced. He passed the English, the comprehension, everything, and they offered him as a job. And the lady looked at me, and she had tears in her eyes, and she goes, a third of our students are intellectually challenged now. They're on some type of government aid because something's wrong with them. A third. And I looked at her and I said, that's awful. She goes, we don't see test scores like your sons, even with high school graduates. We don't get students like this. It's a junior college. They have a dual program. It's called the collegiate high school program. They get to go in high school and do the first 2 years of the AA degree at the same time. She goes, we don't see students with his IQ scores. And then I played a picture of him, and he's online. You can look at Harrison Brower. You watch him playing the piano online. He plays like Beethoven. Taught himself how to play piano. And then there's another one on there with Savannah Brower. You can look at her up, too. Singing Silent Night, Holy Night in perfect German. All three stanzas in front of 4,000 people. I mean, these are the children that you raise when you feed them organic foods. You give them their cod liver oil to keep their brain functioning, and you don't put a bunch of immunizations through their body. This is what's possible, Joe, Doug. But the reality is we haven't done that. We've been so dumbed down now since the fluoride started in our water back in 46 and the BPA started in the late 40s and all these chemicals went into the food supply that we think we're going to live longer than our parents because we're eating healthier. In many cases, we live a lot shorter lives than our parents because our parents had the mineral reserves like we talked about earlier. That's why a lot of people, well, my mother lived to be 90 years old and she drank and got drunk every day. Okay, well, I'm happy for you. All right? I'm happy for you. When she was born, she had her own organic farm in the backyard, okay? And so she was a lot healthier as a child. She made it through all the childhood diseases, and she had natural immunities to everything. I mean, I had the mumps, I had the measles, I had the chicken pox, I had all of those. I'm fine. In fact, I've got lifetime immunities now. When you take the immunizations, you don't get lifetime immunities from these diseases. And that's why they got to use those booster shots all the time. And the sad part about it is we've got all of these kids now with autism. I mean, God, I wrote that book on that a few years ago. I had no idea how it was going to increase in just 12 or 13 years, and it was off the charts back then. I wrote the book. I also talked in that book about Columbine and about how all these kids back in the 90s that had shot all of their friends and then killed themselves. It happened at Florida State University, my alma mater, 2-3 weeks ago. The guy was on tricyclic antidepressants, again, the one we talked about earlier in length, and he went up and shot 3 other students. Luckily, he didn't kill him, then he killed himself. And see, the sad part about it is every time you look at this, Robin Williams, the guy at Florida State, the Columbine, every single time you look at this, you find these links that these kids have killed themselves and shot other kids taking these tricyclic antidepressants. Last weekend, I was driving up to see the Florida State-Florida game, which Florida State looked awful in that game if you watched the game, and we're driving up through Chiefland, up on the back road on 19. There's a huge billboard, and it says, "What's killing our soldiers?" And there was a picture of all these different calibers, of bullets. And at the very end, they had a big old Prozac pill on the billboard. And it says, "What's killing our soldiers? You pick it." And the people, they don't realize it's the pills that are causing these guys to commit suicide. And the sad part about it is the government knows that. They know what tricyclic antidepressants do. The government is the one that made the manufacturers put the black box warning on the tricyclic antidepressants, telling that you're going to want to kill yourself if you take the product. And they're so addictive, Joe. They're so hard to get off of when you stop taking these things because of what it does to your brain chemistry. And it's awful. And the sad part about it is that we already covered earlier in the show how easy it is in most cases to get rid of mild to moderate forms of depression without the use of drugs whatsoever by taking the proper supplements and feeding your brain the way you need to. And see, that's what we need to understand as a nation. If we do the things that we're supposed to do in God's eyes and start honoring Him, take care of our bodies. Remember, the Bible says, don't you know that ye yourselves are God's temple and God's Spirit lives within you? If you destroy God's temple, He's going to destroy you. What do you think that means? Do you think that's happy? That's not happy. Everybody wants to be happy all the time. That means take care of yourself, do the things that you know to do, and let God do the rest. There's a plaque that I have that my grandmother did back in Germany, back in the 1800s, and it says in Germany, "Zwei Leben stützen brechen nie, Gebet und Arbeit heißen sie." And what that means in German and what it means in English is there's two fundamental principles, two pillars of life that can never be broken: prayer and work. And see, that's the whole thing. We have to understand that's how life is. It's prayer and it's work. You work like it's up to you, and you pray like it's up to God, and you believe God for the things that you want to have in your life, not the things you don't want to have in your life. And it's amazing what happens in your life. But the sad part about it is, as Christians, we think that it's okay. We go to the pastor, we go to church on Sunday morning. They're all caught up in their 501(c)(3) corporation nonsense. They don't want to tell the truth. And Paul McGuire is very, very clear about this. Man, I love Paul McGuire, by the way. He's one of the best guys you have on your show. And basically, and what happens is they basically emasculated the men in the church because they won't tell the people the truth. Our pastor, we go to Southern Baptist Church over here in Lakeland. And it's crazy. We had last summer, he did a whole thing on Obama and the Muslims. And the name of the sermon for 4 weeks in a row was "The Muslims Are Coming." The Muslims are coming. He had that church packed out. You couldn't even get parking spots in the middle of the summer because he stood against tyranny, and he told the people the truth of what was going on. And he's on my email list, and we're constantly updating him as to what we do. And we have, 10,000 members in that church? I mean, the craziest thing about it is that at least he was telling the truth. And if all of the pastors, and Chuck Baldwin was another one who tells the truth, if all of the pastors out of the pulpit realize that they've got to tell people the truth, it's like this. It's like having freeze-dried food in your house with 20-year shelf life. People asked me one time, well, why do you guys sell it on your website? I said, because I think it's a good idea to have that. They go, why do you think it's a good idea? I said, because we live in a hurricane zone. If we have a hurricane, we don't have any food for a couple of weeks. We can still eat. Is that okay? Well, yeah, okay, you can do that. I'm like, well, thank you. And we have pastors telling people from the pulpit now not to store food. Well, guys, what happens if we don't get raptured? What happens if we go through the pre-tribulation or the first part of the tribulation, or the mid-trib, or whatever happens with this rapture theology that we've basically thought? The people in Liberia right now, they got bodies floating down the St. John's River with Ebola. They can't keep them contained, being swept out into the Pacific Ocean. Do you not think that they think that just maybe hell has come upon this planet and the book of Revelation has been opened for the Christians that are there? And what about all the Christians that were told that they were going to be in a pre-trib rapture? I mean, how are they dealing with all the body bags they're bringing in over there? And see, that's what we have to be so careful with as leaders, guys. We have to make sure that we cover our bases and we let people know, this is my opinion, this is what I think. But just in case this doesn't work, you better have a backup plan. And see, and that's what people need to realize. The people in the Weimar Republic, I'm going to mention it again, who made it through all of this stuff and kept their money and their finances intact, they put their money into hard assets, gold, silver, land, blue-chip stocks, before the currency went to nothing. They made it through to the other side. The people that relied on the government to take care of it, they all went broke. And like you said earlier in the show, they don't want a middle class anymore. They want the elite, and they want the slave class. They want us to be their servants, almost identical to the book Hunger Games, in which the ruling elite basically tell us what we can and can't do and how much we can and can't eat, and basically they live in their opulent splendor in their palaces. And you know, and Tom Horn talks about this, and McGuire talks about this too, about the melding of human beings with machines, and that's their ultimate goal, is basically they don't want to die, because I guess they don't want the karma they've dealt with as far as going to hell. I guess they don't want to deal with all that, like the book of Isaiah says, I think it was chapter 15, when Satan shows up in hell, and basically all the rulers are down there waiting on him. They thought he was going to come down there and basically get him out, and basically he says, well, how about you, old Morning Star? Why are you down here with us? I mean, what happened with you, buddy? Why are you in shackles? And see, they know who's going to win this game. This game is cosmic. It's been played for eons of time, and God's going to win it. Because God sits on the highest dimensional plane that we know of in physics, and he kind of rules the entire universe, and that's how it works. And when you become a Christian, you basically have a tie with him on God Almighty, and he gives you authority over heaven and hell. That's what the Word of God says. And see, the point is that we as Christians don't realize the authority we have when we become born-again believers and the power that we've been given through the Holy Spirit. And we think we can just sit there and just take it and take it and take it and never complain. Well, you say, well, then I hear the thing of Romans, the book of Romans, where it says, obey the rulers of the land. The rulers of the land, number one, the ruler of the United States, we don't have a king here, contrary to what King Obama wants to make us believe. We have a constitution. And the way I look at that whole Romans thing is obey the Constitution. If the Constitution says to do this, we need to do it. If the Constitution says don't do it, we don't do it. Like Paul said, like Congressman Paul and Senator Rand Paul talk about. And what we need to realize is that if God tells you to go out, if the government tells you to go out and kill innocent people, are you going to obey that because it says that in Romans? Absolutely not. The Word says, I died to sin. How should I live it any longer? By no means. I died to it. I died in it. We don't break the rules of God to obey the laws of man. And that's the problem with the churches. We think we can do whatever we want to do and say whatever we want to say and tell everybody basically to sit back and not be involved in their communities or in the elections or in the election process, and we can't talk about it from the pulpit, and it's okay. Doug, Joe, it's not okay. That's why we have Roe v. Wade. That's why we took the Bible out of the school. And I heard you say this the other day, Joe. You were talking about how it's our parents' fault, our grandparents' fault. It's our fault as individuals and in the aggregate that we did not stand against tyranny, and we've allowed this stuff to march into the United States, just like the Germans did in Nazi Germany. They didn't see it coming either. And now we've got all of these people sitting here with all of these drugged-out brains not realizing where they are anymore, and we're trying to talk to them as if they can actually understand what we're trying to say, and they can't really understand anymore, and that's why it's up to us, the patriots, to tell the truth and say, hey, look, call your congressman, call your senator, put up some stored food for heaven's sake. Pretend like just maybe things are going to get worse, which is what the Bible says is going to happen. And then maybe you realize that if we all pull together in the aggregate, like Paul says, we can slow this onslaught down, and the book of Revelation doesn't have to open just yet. And that's my goal for all of us, is to realize that maybe we can get through our lives and our kids can get through their lives, and we can try to hold the United States intact. But, guys, the way it's looking right now is like you said a few weeks ago on the Alex Jones show. You said that, the fall of 2015, this thing's probably going to come to a screeching halt. And I think you're pretty right. Unless something happens in the spiritual world, this whole thing's about to come apart with the global financial system and the New World Order and the new currency and the electronic currency and all of this stuff. And they know what they're doing. They're planning on doing it. It's all involved with Luciferianism and Satan worship right through Skull and Bones on down. And the thing about it is that we as Christians, we've got to wake up. We've got to support organizations like Hagmann and Hagmann, like our company, like Health Masters, like Alex Jones, and realize that we're all out here telling you guys the truth, trying to put our own necks on the line, saying, hey, wait a minute, guys, there's more to what's going on than meets the eye. Just maybe you need to turn these TV sets off, and you need to turn some of this alternative media on, and just maybe you'll be given the truth, and the truth will set you free. Because, guys, if you don't get told the truth can't set you free, but then you got to accept the truth. Jesus said, light has come into the world, but the world has preferred the darkness. And always remember that. There are people out there you can't help no matter what you tell them, Doug, Joe.
That's right. And with that, Ted, we're up against a break time. We're going to take a quick 3-minute break. So with that, grab yourself a glass of water, take a quick refresher, and we'll be back after a short message from our sponsors. Folks, you're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report on this Monday, December 1st, 2014, with our guest, Mr. Ted Breuer. His websites can be found at our website at hagmannandhagmann.com, but they are healthmasters.com, bodybyted.com, and his latest book, Breakthrough Health, is available at Amazon, and you can find the links in our show description or on our website at hagmannandhagmann.com. We'll be back with Dr. Ted Breuer for our third and final segment after a quick message from our...
The Hagmann and Hagmann Report. Our special guest is Ted Breuer. I'll tell you, Ted Breuer is a man of much information. I cannot remember the last program that we had with this much information crammed into the 3 hours. His website, healthmasters.com, bodybyted.com, and both. You'll find links to both at Hagmann and Hagmann.com on the right-hand side, along with his book as well as his telephone number. Okay, folks? So please, Hagmann and Hagmann.com. Go there now during the show or tomorrow morning. Grab the phone number, grab the website links, and that'll take you to his website. I highly, 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 highly recommend his book, Breakthrough Health. Okay, please, folks. Plus, he's also essentially giving away a book that he wrote before. So, folks, please take advantage of this great offer from this very intelligent, very passionate a man of integrity. That's our very special guest, and I'll tell you something. It's really an honor to know this man and to have him a part of our listening audience, listening audience. To have him a part of our I think we're going to put him on staff as our registered health guy. Okay, seriously, I'm not even sure what to call you except knowledgeable and a man of integrity. Ted, thanks for hanging with us, and we've got a ton of questions. One from Renee in Quebec, one from J.K., another from Donna, and several others. I don't even know. Let me hit this one from Renee from Quebec first. What do you have? What do you recommend? How can you quit smoking? And that affects a lot of people, especially my age, our age, where we grew up smoking, or grew up with their parents smoking. What's the best way to go about that? Or are there any supplements?
Well, the best way to do that is to do the nicotine patch, or basically use the vapor cigarettes, because nicotine is an extremely addictive drug. I think it was C. Everett Koop said it was as addictive as heroin, and of course they know that. That's why they put all kinds of other things in the cigarette smoke to make it even worse for you, to make it even more addictive, and they do that because they intentionally marketed it to children back in the 60s and the 70s. I mean, remember Joe Camel? That was specifically for kids. And the craziest thing about it is that, it worked, and that's why the FDA and not the Food and Drugs, but I think the FDA, the FCC they forced them off the air with it because it was such an effective marketing tool. But the best way to do it is the vapor cigarettes. I wish there was a nutritional way to tell you to do this. There's not that I know of. I mean, you can do that with alcohol. There are nutritional ways to stop drinking alcohol, because invariably alcohol in many cases is because of hypoglycemia. So you can stabilize the blood sugar, and you can actually cut back the craving for alcohol and massively reduce it. But with the cigarettes, you're going to have to titrate the dosing down and reduce the amounts of nicotine. I would either recommend using the patch or using the inhaler, the little cigarette inhaler, but I've heard they've got bad things in those things now too. But the reality is that that's the best way to do it, and get off the cigarettes. And if you really want to increase your life expectancy a whole bunch, make sure you wear your seatbelt too. I mean, you got to look at statistics,
wow.
What statistics are, and realize it. Just stop eating those top 10 foods never to eat. Order a copy of the book. If you don't have internet access to it or whatever, you can call 1-800-726-1834. That's 800-726-1834. My son's down there. I'm kind of like you and your son. My son's down there working right now, and you may get him on the telephone, and basically, and you can talk to him and ask him a bunch of questions. And then we got all these different protocols lined out. And again, what we're going to do, and I want everybody to order the T-shirts and the sweatshirts. I'm going to order one of those from the company that Joe wants us to order from to support his broadcast. And we're going to give a percentage of the profits from the Eat, Drink, and Be Healthy program and the book to Hagmann and Hagmann tonight. And we haven't talked about any of this. I don't normally do that. And I just want everybody to know that I'm here to help them as far as their investigative journalism that they do. And everybody here listening should be willing to do the same thing, because we're all in this together. This is Spaceship Earth. We're about to have a mess on this thing, and we can't get off of it. That's why Jones calls it Prison Planet. I'd rather have it Opportunity Planet. I'd rather call it Opportunity Planet, because we can change this if we give the right opportunities, but we've got to do it together. We've got to realize we've got to support one another, support the Hagmann, support their causes, support their sponsors, and realize we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. That's the whole thing.
Amen.
Ask as if it has already been given unto you, and you shall receive it. That's faith. Those are the words of Christ. We have to understand that we have to stand in the aggregate against this evil. We've got to stand against this. They're pushing on us this pedophilia and this satanic worship and all of this stuff. My gosh, I won't even watch NFL anymore because of what they show on the halftimes with the Super Bowl. I mean, I boycotted it. I said I'm done with it. I've had enough of it because of the filth and the perversion. And the sad part about it is if we all do that and we stop supporting this mind control TV agenda that they do that puts you into an alpha brainwave state, makes you unbelievable. It makes you want to do. It makes you take suggestions and implement them in your life, and they make you think it's all real and it's all true. It's not. The other day, I watched the mainstream news. Right, flipping through it the other night. I had something else I was looking for, and sure enough, this guy, they're showing the poppy fields in Colombia and how they were supplying the world with heroin, and I started laughing. The major supplier of heroin in the world is Afghanistan, and our troops guard the poppy fields. And they were showing these 4-acre fields in Colombia, if that's where this was, saying this is what's supplying the heroin to the United States. This one field will give you 2 kilos of heroin. Newsflash. 2 kilos of heroin isn't going to do much. It's coming out of Afghanistan, and we're basically guarding it for the warlords that are running Afghanistan. Now, it's nuts.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right on the money. And I'll tell you, folks. I mean, can you tell this man is highly educated, highly knowledgeable about the diverse topics. If I can get back to a couple of questions here real quick. The very interesting one from Donna, and then I've got a loaded question for you after this, but one from Donna here. She's taken flu shots because of her positions, jobs, and what have you for a number of years, upwards of a decade and a half. What, if anything, can she take nutritionally to lower her risks after all those years of flu shots?
I mean, to lower her risk of Alzheimer's or senile dementia?
Yeah,
or lowering her risk of catching the flu?
Lower. I suspect the more debilitating diseases like dementia.
That's EDTA acronym for a compound that was discovered back in the 30s with Germany, where there were their massive shipbuilding facilities, and they were spraying all the paints with all the ships with lead paint, and they were dropping IQ scores like crazy with these guys because they were absorbing lead through their skin and inhaling it. And so what happened is they developed a compound. I think it's called ethylene tetracyclic ditetracyclic acid, something like that. That's not exactly right. It's a long generic name. And what it does, it's a chelating agent. It goes in and claws or chelates the mercury back out of your system and the lead back out of your system. It works very, very well. You can do it orally or you can do it intravenously. I do the intravenous chelation about once every 2 months, and what it does, it massively reduces the amount of calcium plaquing in the arteries, too, if you do it enough, and it decreases the amount of lead and mercury and aluminum in the brain. That's one of the primary reasons I do it, because my arteries are pretty clean. I've had them checked. With that scope thing they use, not the surgical one, but the one they go through like a ultrasound. They told me I had the arteries of like a 16-year-old. But the craziest thing is I still do that because I want to chelate the heavy metals. See, I can drink the right water. I can drink distilled. I can drink reverse osmosis. I can do that. I can eat the organic, non-GMO foods to the best of my knowledge. I can take the high-quality nutraceutical products that we produce at Health Masters. I can do all of that. But Joe, Doug, I still got to breathe the wretched air they're spraying all this junk in. And so you're still going to absorb this stuff. I mean, they got away. I guess it's kind of like in the concentration camps. They couldn't put the fluoride in tablets to make people take it. They had to put it in the water to drink because they had to drink water. They're going to die. We've got to breathe air. I mean, the whole thing is so nefarious. It's ridiculous unless there's some underlying motive with this. I mean, I don't want to go off into spaceships and all this other kind of crazy stuff tonight because all the information I've already given you guys is enough. But if you read that book, and just get it off Amazon. I'm not selling it. It's called The Day After Roswell by Colonel Philip Corso. It was written like in 1996, 97. He died like right after he wrote it. Surprise, surprise. And he basically went into detail. I mean, come on, guys. 15 guys who were going to testify in Benghazi are dead now. They've been murdered. Are you kidding me? This is nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, And all the biochemical scientists that have worked in germ warfare, they all just suddenly die. I mean, this whole thing is crazy what's going on. You can't say anything anymore. Every morning you've got to get up and you've got to plead the blood of Jesus over your heart, your soul, your mind, your lives. You've got to put a hedge of thorns around yourself, and you've got to station heavenly angels around you. I mean, you've got to have protection in these other dimensions. You've got to do it. You've got to do it out loud, and you've got to pray together every single day. I told my daughter tonight, I was talking to her on Facebook or FaceTime in Germany on my little iPad. And I told her, I said, honey, please make sure that you and Annalena pray every day. I've taught you how to pray. I've taught Annalena how to pray for the last 3 months she's been here with us. I said, just because you're in Germany doesn't mean you can't pray. You've got to pray every single day. And she goes, yes, Daddy, I'll do it. And hopefully she will. But the reality is I cannot stress to you the importance of prayer, Doug, Joe. It's absolutely critical, the power that we get and the way we recharge our batteries when we pray. I mean, I prayed tonight before the show came on. I want to make sure that people realize that we've got to pray every single day out loud for what you want, not what you don't want. You don't ask God not to kill you. You ask him to give you life and to protect you. You've got to pray in the positive affirmation. You've got to tell him what you want. And I could tell you story after story after story of how that's worked in my own personal life. Because God is here to give. Remember what Jesus said? If you ask your Father for a piece of bread, he's not going to give you a stone or a snake. And that's what God's not going to do. He's going to give you what you ask him for. And I'm asking that this country wakes up, that they stop eating this junk, they stop doing what they need to do, they get off all these prescription and over-the-counter drugs that are killing them, they wake up from their stupor, and the sleeping giant that the Japanese were so scared of awakens again like we did in the 40s and changes the faces of the globe, and the people change it. That's what I'm hoping for, Doug and Joe. But the reality is, we're so many of us are like drugged. It's horrible, guys. It's absolutely horrible what these drugs do to the brain, and the globalists know that. They know what they're doing. They know how they're poisoning us.
You're exactly right on the money. Now I'm going to throw out this word to you, in the form of a question, and put this word in here, and I'm just going to let you go, okay? Because I know this is going to spark something within you, okay? Obamacare. What's go? Just go.
Obamacare. Cloward Pittman intentionally designed to bankrupt the United States of America, turning a large portion of the gross national product over to the government to be controlled by the bureaucrats. Another form of massive taxation. It's going to destroy the middle class. It's going to destroy the health care in the United States. And the problem is, it's already been implemented. So much of the damage that they're going to do has already been done. And the guys in Congress, they don't have the guts to repeal this mess. And if they try to repeal it, all Obama's going to do is veto it unless they can get an overriding amount. And with the current amount of people that we have in Congress that don't have any brains left, or they're drugged into a stupor, or like J. Edgar Hoover said, I don't have to control 100% of Congress, only 51%. I mean, what do they know on these people? I mean, if they're going to these whack-bag Satan parties at Bohemian Grove in which they're burning human beings in effigy and chanting things to Lucifer, and they're getting on videotape doing that, or they're in their wild homosexual orgies at Bohemian Grove, which they talked about and Richard Nixon talked about, and they got videotape of them doing that, they don't have to say too much to them to make them do what they want them to do. And that's the craziest thing. And you got all these crazy congressmen up in Washington in these child pedophile rings, and the United Nations bringing in these kids and trafficking these children. I mean, if they get videotapes of these guys doing this, they'll vote anywhere they want them to vote. I mean, there's no the truth of men walking up and shaking their hand like it was in the Old West and doing what they say they were going to do is gone. You know, now you've got to have a 45-page contract trying to guarantee that everybody gets covered in every single thing you do with all the fine print. It's sad. What happened to let your word be yea and your word be nay, and I'll do what my word says, and if I give you my word I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. Those days are gone. They're behind us. The Father's Knows Best and the Gomer Pyle and the Bewitched and the Gilligan's Island, that stuff is gone. There's no more of those funny little sitcoms that really meant no harm. Now we have this perverted stuff that's all over the Internet, all over TV, with all of the Metro boys, basically the little boys that don't know if they're boys or girls anymore because of all this stuff. And here's what I'm going to say something very quickly. It wasn't their fault if they were chemically castrated in utero. The government knew what they were doing. The government did this, and they did it on purpose, Doug. They did it on purpose, Joe. And the sad part about it is we haven't put their feet to the brimstone, to the fire, and made them accountable for what they've done and how they feminized the United States of America. And doggone it all, it's not these guys' fault if they were chemically castrated in utero. They had nothing to do with it. It was predetermined by the globalists before they were ever put into vitro, into utero. And the sad part about it is it's a horrible thing to have to deal with now as Christians because we don't know what to do. But the reality is this. I don't care if you're gay, if you're straight, if you're black, if you're white, if you're female, if you're a male. I don't even care anymore. Any of us who are awake need to stand together in the aggregate against tyranny. We've got to stop this infighting and all these things that we want to say about special interest groups. I don't care if you're a Baptist or a Presbyterian or a Lutheran. It doesn't make a bit of difference. We all need to stand together for Jesus Christ. We've got to stand in the aggregate for what the Word of God says we need to do. We need to understand that we are in a mess and that the United States is going down the drain of history right now, and it's already circling the plug, and if we don't do something, we're in trouble. And the sad part about it is we can't be worried about if somebody's this or somebody's that or somebody's this or somebody's that. If they're willing to stand against tyranny, as far as I'm concerned, they're on my side, Joe and Doug. And I'm not going to stand in the other. They can sort all the rest of the stuff out with God, as far as I'm concerned. But as far as I'm concerned, we as a nation have to stand together. I mean, remember that one movie, The Shooter? When that congressman, the TV with Mark Wahlberg, and the guy who's the senator out of Montana says, "Don't you know there's no such thing as Shiites or Sunnis? There's the haves and the have-nots. You're either with us or you're against us. What side do you want to be on?" And the sad part about it is the globalists understand that, even though they have their own infighting going on, but they're pretty much unified in this New World Order using Lucifer. And we've got to stand with Jesus Christ, who has authority and dominion over Lucifer, against this New World Order. We've got to stand for what we know is right. We've got to stand for the righteous and the strong. We've got to stand for what the Word of God says, and we've got to stand forward and look forward to what we can do to try to help as many people as we possibly can to wake up and to rid this country of tyranny, guys. And if we don't do that, what's going to happen is we're not going to have a country. It's like you said on Alex Jones a few weeks ago. The fall of 2015 is a real high probability that we're going to have a whole bunch of stuff happen all at once. And what do you call it, Joe? The tipping point in history, when all these things happen at one time and all of a sudden you have massive change when you reach the tipping point?
Yep. Absolutely, tipping point.
Yeah, and you guys are right. And see, it's like you said a few minutes ago. You've got a sponsor right now that's selling storable food. I sell storable food on my website. If you're going to buy storable food, buy it from Joe's sponsor. Buy it from his stores of food, because they're supporting the Hagmann and Hagmann show. Because we have to stand together. You need to have storable food. You need to have organic, storable food that has a 20-year shelf life. You've got to be able to feed your family, especially if you have children. I mean, what if these pastors that are telling you not to get any storable food, what if we have a hurricane or something horrible happens, or an EMP, for heaven's sakes, and we can't get food? What are these pastors going to do when the church comes to them and say, well, where's my food? You told me not to buy food. Now all of a sudden we're out of food. See, that's what we have to realize, is that as leaders, we've got to think about what we're saying to everybody and how it's going to affect everybody in aggregate if something bad happens. If you store up and get some blue chip stocks and get some silver and some gold, and you do the things that you do with food or whatever you want to do, and something happens, you're kind of covered. But you got to kind of hedge your bets on all of this stuff, because we don't know what these nutbag globalists are going to do. They have so many false flags in the fire, so many things that are going on, from economic collapses to meteorites coming in to who knows what else they're planning on doing to us, to spaceships they're covering up. I mean, what in the world is their next plan attack? They're basically teaching us learned helplessness, like I talked about earlier, in which you get so overwhelmed by everything you hear in the media, you just say, I'm just going to give up and let the government take care of me. Well, you can't do that, guys. You've got to stand against. Don't do what Germany did. Don't do what the German people did. Don't let Hitler do what Hitler's doing. The guy, that country singer, Hank Williams, a few years ago, when he called Obama Hitler, I mean, he called it out. He called it out straight. I mean, don't let this happen to the United States. Maybe we've got a chance to stop it still. Maybe we can believe God, all of us together, and we can stop it. We showed all of this last election, if they still mean anything, we threw all these socialist communists out, Islamic communist socialists, whatever you want to call them, we threw them out, also known as Democrats. And the Republicans are just as bad in some cases. But the reality is, at least most of them aren't promoting communism. And the sad part about it is, if we could, as a nation, wake up and our internet and our shows aren't canceled or taken off the air because we're telling the people the truth, we can still affect the change. It doesn't take that many people. We proved it the last election. But if we can sweep it again in 2016, we might be able to stop it if we have until 2016, if we can get Obama out of office, if he's really going to leave, if he's not going to declare martial law. I mean, we don't know what he's going to do. Medical martial law is where they could do it with Ebola, or name your respiratory disease coming out of South America, or any other plethora of diseases that they could put on top of us. It's like you said on that one show, Doug, this Ebola that we're having now, it's not the same hemorrhagic fever that we saw back in the 70s. Where's all the blood supposed to be coming? I mean, you don't see all the blood anymore. And the craziest thing about it is they've tweaked this, according to Dr. Francis Boyle. He said he thinks they combine the flu virus, not the common cold virus, with the Ebola virus to make it more, more contagious. I mean, this thing is nuts. What's the sickest thing about it is these people are so stinking sick and evil. They think this is okay. This isn't okay. I mean, who told them this was okay? If they think that Lucifer knows all this stuff and they want to run around and trot around and worship him at Bohemian Grove, why does he require sacrifice of the infants? Why does he require people to be bled out and sacrificed on these altars all over the world? Why is this still going on today? Why are we burning people in effigy at Bohemian Grove? Why is that okay? If you think he's such a good guy and you're listening to the show tonight and you worship Lucifer, what the heck's wrong with you? Open your eyes. This isn't happy with this guy. He's bad news. He's been bad news since the beginning of time. And God told you he was bad news. He warned you about him. And he's still running around lying, cheating, stealing, doing the things that he's done since the beginning of time. And people think he's okay and they're going to worship him as God? Are they nuts? I mean, a God who requires human sacrifice? I mean, what is that? I mean, are we seriously considering that that's okay? And why do these globalists think that's okay, guys? Unless they have such a reprobate mind and they're already the spawn of Satan and they've been inbred with these fallen angels, and now they think that they're his father, that he would be their father. I mean, Jesus called them out in the New Testament in the book of John. If you read there's a really good book you can read. It's called Pawns in the Game by Carr. It's a free book online, Carr, C-A-R-R, Pawns in the Game. And Jesus called these leaders out. He called them the sons of Lucifer, told them their father was the devil. And, and the sad part about it is that it was going on then, it's going on now. It started way back when with Nimrod and all the stuff with the fallen angels. And the sad part about it is we want to pretend like it's not happening. This is not a battle of flesh and blood. Pray every morning. This is a battle in the high places, unseen dimensions. That's what we got to take authority of, and Paul McGuire's 100% right on that, guys. I'm sorry, you got me started. You said you'd fire me. I'm talking about Obamacare. You did it.
Well, that's good, and you're exactly right. Look, even if we walked back Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, right now, most of the damage has already been done. I don't think we can walk it back anyway. I don't think the Washington has the will, and nor do the people have the fight in them. And I find it very interesting too, the way you were talking about the pharmaceuticals and about how we have been medically managed by the big pharma, which is directly connected to the Illuminati, if you will, or of course it doesn't exist according to Jim Carrey, but the globalists. We'll call them the globalists. Big pharma connected to the globalists, and how we've been dumbed down, how we've been we're a bunch of eunuchs here in the United States, especially in the United States, and how this is all connected, this is no accident where we find ourselves today. I think that this is an orchestrated plan, and people will say, well, this is just all conspiracy nonsense. But to me, it's too finely tuned, what we're witnessing here. It's too finely tuned of a plan, and I see. Let me ask you this: do you see where we're at today? Are we in the closing chapters of the playbook of the globalists here?
unless we stand in the aggregate in prayer, it's done. It's over. I mean, Lucifer's bringing in his kingdom. This is the book of Revelation says is going to happen. It's not like it's some kind of game that we're playing here that we haven't already read the story and how it ends. I mean, we have to understand that if we don't get raptured out of here, which I don't believe in a pre-trib I don't believe in a pre-trib rapture. That was brought in by the Scofield Bible back in the mid-1800s. I could do a whole show with you on that. I mean, I believe that was brought in by the publishers and the globalists even back then to try to emasculate the church. Because you tell the church that nothing bad's ever going to happen to them, they're going to get pulled up in the first load. They don't have to worry about anything. Why in the world would they ever stand against tyranny? Because it won't affect them. Are you kidding me? Look around. Look at Ferguson. Are you joking me? I mean, gosh, that's a Department of Homeland Security operation. You know that. You even said it on Alice Jones. Everybody knows it. That guy in the doggone hotel that took pictures of, dozens and dozens of Department of Homeland Security vans, he was fired from his position because he released a photo.
Exactly.
I mean, this is nuts. I mean, this whole thing is nuts. We are moving towards Kristallnacht. We are moving toward the night of the long knives. And if we don't stop it like the Germans couldn't do, and now we look back on history and we're saying, well, gosh, now I understand how Hitler did this. We didn't want the Obama Act, and then Gruber gets on national talk shows and speaking engagements and tells everybody the only way they got Obamacare passed because the American voter was so stupid. And we think that's okay. Why isn't he in jail? Why isn't he being indicted? I mean, what's going on with us? I mean, this thing is nuts, Doug. I mean, Gruber, I mean, are you joking me? I mean, gosh, I mean, I can't even believe that he even still is in the United States after what he's done, to be honest with you. And look at the Benghazi, look at the IRS gate, look at the Fast and the Furious, all of these things, every one of them, if we had a Congress that was worth a hoot, are impeachable offenses, for heaven's sakes, every one of them. But nothing happens. Nothing.
Well, beyond impeachable, they're due for a perp walk and incarceration, basically, for what they've done, sedition and treason. It's interesting. You look at Gruber out there, what he said and what he's done, and look at Officer Darren Wilson. You've got one that's on a pedestal and still practicing and talking and speaking, and the other is in hiding and in exile, basically. Things are upside down and backwards. You mentioned Ferguson. Based on our research, look, I mean, and you know this, the DHS have had operatives that stoked the fire, sharpened.
The DOJ.
I mean, this is right from the White House.
The Department of Justice sent teams down there to coach people on protesting. There's since been a video released on YouTube that shows potentially SWAT officers starting a fire in an Advanced Auto parking lot, which later the whole building was engulfed in flames and destroyed. And we haven't been able to verify 100% if it was started by the police, but the video sure is damaging.
It's compelling.
Well, see, guys, this all goes back to Leipzig, to Germany, to the 1800s, to Pavlov, to Skinner, to problem, action, solution. That's what this goes back to. This goes back to training us like we're animals. This is a giant beta test. That's the same thing Obama even said about the first outbreak of Ebola we had in this country. He goes, this is like a practice session. He's telling us what they're going to do. Basically, this is that white magic these low-life Satanists practice. They've got to tell you what they're going to do because they say that the karma on the other side is so bad for them if they don't tell you in advance how they're planning on killing you and it's okay with you, that basically they get it on the back end when they're in the next dimension. They don't want that. So they've got to warn you what they're going to do. They've got to tell you what they're going to do, and then it's back to this Luciferian practice again. That's why they do this stuff. It's like you said on the Alex Jones show. It's like spiking the football in the end zone when they tell you they're going to do all this stuff to you because it's like, watch this. There's nothing you can do about this because we're going to tell you now, and now we're not guilty of your blood anymore. So apparently there's rules to play by, even when you like to sacrifice human beings and babies, I guess. I don't know. I guess in the next dimension, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we don't know about that's going to come up, and that we need to realize that this whole thing is going to be coming to a screeching halt. Like you said, if we don't do something about this quickly, I mean, what I've seen in the last 6 years, look at the curve that he put this country on as far as going to communism. Or fascism. I guess it would be a communist-fascist dictatorship, I guess. I don't know what this is, between the Third Reich and Stalin, I guess. And the problem is, we are standing here watching it happening, and they're basically telling us it's okay, nothing's going on. It's like that Jedi mind trick that you see in Star Wars when Luke says to the guy at the bar, "There's nobody here. There's no one here." You go away, and the guy just kind of walks away. Oh, there's nobody here. That's what they do. They pretend like they've broken into our house. It's 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, and we hear them come in, and we're standing there with a 12-gauge shotgun pointed at them, and they're saying, "You don't see us. We're not here. Just pretend like we're not here. You go back to sleep, and we're good." Now, and people in the United States lay back down and go back to sleep. Are you kidding me? I'm not going to go back to sleep. I'm going to discharge my weapon. And the craziest thing about it is people fall for this. They fall for the alpha brainwave nonsense they get from the TV sets and all the lies they're being told, and they won't wake up. Because Jesus said, if you'll turn, I will turn and heal you if you'll turn from your wicked ways. And the sad part about it is, if we turn from our wicked ways and we stand forth in the Word of God, He will turn and He will heal our land. But we've got to humble ourselves and make the people realize it's not okay. It's not okay to have this guy standing in the bedroom with you at 2 o'clock in the morning telling you that he's not there when you're holding a shotgun. Our shotgun is the Word of God. It's the sword. It's a double-edged sword. It's a shotgun. It can divide the whole marrow to the bone. It'll show you what the possibilities of the Word of God is. But the Word of God's got to go before us. We can't do this on our own. We can do it through the blood of Christ. As Christians, we can stand in the aggregate, and we can change this country. But we've got to stop compromising, and we've got to wake up. We've got to take the stinking fluoride IV out of your arm. Stop drinking tap water if it has fluoride in it. Stop using fluoride toothpaste. There's a reason the fluoride toothpaste says if ingested, contact the Poison Control Center. It has fluoride in it. It's poison. It's rat poison. Stop using mouthwash with fluoride. Stop doing fluoride treatments when you go to the dentist. Stop this nonsense. Stop lowering your IQ like Harvard says happens to you when you ingest fluoride. I go to the dentist and they don't even argue with me anymore. They know when I get my teeth cleaned. They don't even offer me fluoride because I start on a tirade with them about fluoride, and they don't want any of their other customers to hear it. I guess I don't know. I don't even know why they even offer that poison to put in your mouth. Get the fluoride IV out of your mouth, out of your arm. Get the stupid junk of the halogens and the chlorine and the fluorine and the bromide out of your diet. Get your thyroid to boot back up. Go on our immune system protocol that we talked about earlier on the show and start feeling good and get your energy back up. Guys, I'm 59 years old and I feel like I'm 20. My brain functions like I'm 18 still. And I tell you what, it doesn't have to be senile dementia when you're 60. You can feel great, have tremendous energy. Go to my website, healthmasters.com, or call us at 1-800-726-1834. Let us help you. Take the first step and start changing your diet. And if you're going to buy survival food, don't buy survival food that has soy in it. Newsflash, you won't need to be eating soy products if you're trying to stay alive. Buy stuff without soy. That's really, really important, by the way.
Okay, I appreciate you making that distinction, and we see a lot of products with soy in it. Let me ask you a question here. In fact, we got a couple of emails that came in about this. You're so knowledgeable about so many things. We're living in a world right now where, Wi-Fi is everywhere. You've got cell towers everywhere. What about dirty energy, if that's what it's called, or energy that
it's interesting you would ask me that because, the reality is I won't even let my kids use the iPad. I won't let them do it because, there's no power connection or, internet connection to that. You can't hook up to it with a Ethernet cord. And I tell the girls you can't use it. You can use a regular laptop, but you can't use the Wi-Fi. I won't let them play with the Wi-Fi energy. And none of the girls have cell phones because what it does is how it irradiates the ovaries when they put it in their back pockets. Yes, it's bad. There's a whole bunch of things on the internet that's been done about this because remember we're an electrical being. I mean, when we become a Christian, or, we live in the bottom 3 dimension. God lives on the 13th dimension, according to most physicists, and basically we get connected to Him through our pineal gland, and basically we are basically tied to Him in that 13th dimension. He shares with us part of His omnipotence and omniscience when we're with Him, and that's why we have all the scriptures that say what we could do as Christians. And the reality is that we have authority over Lucifer and the bunch, okay? But the thing about it is that we've got to learn that we've got to take authority over who we are and what we are in Christ Jesus. And once you understand who you are as a Christian and the power that we have, we can take authority over every circumstance that we're in, Doug and Joe. But we've got to realize first that accepting Jesus Christ is the most important single decision that you're going to do in your entire life, period. It changed my life back in 79 when I did that. totally
Absolutely.
changed my life.
And
then
before
once you understand
before any preparations, physical preparations, whether they're for storable food, water, bodily exercise, none of it's worth anything unless you are spiritually prepared first and foremost. And we need to understand that.
Well, I mean, a meteorite could hit you tomorrow, and it doesn't matter how many times you've worked out or how many vitamins you took, you're gone, okay? And, I mean, the reality is that you've got to have that spiritual relationship with God. I mean, the most important thing in my life is my relationship with God Almighty and Jesus Christ. That's it. Second is my wife. The third are my children. The next is my career. I mean, I keep everything in priority like that. I mean, you're absolutely right. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world but yet forfeit his soul? Like these whack-bag Luciferians do, running around sacrificing people and eating body parts and all the sick stuff these people do. I mean, they've lost their soul. It doesn't matter how much God, their God Lucifer gives them on this planet while they're here. Because remember, he's in the lower dimensions. He still controls the bottom three dimensions. That's why the Bible says that the earth is controlled by Lucifer. He runs the whole thing down here, but we have authority over him. We have a dominion over him because he still is higher on a higher plane of existence. All these planes of existence, the 13th controls the 12th, controls the 11th, controls the 10th, controls all the way down. God's at the 13th. He controls all of it. But when these guys pray to Lucifer, he's higher in the higher dimensions that we're in. He's able to give them their riches and their stuff that they want that's on a temporary basis only, and then they end up going to hell with him. The craziest thing is they don't realize that because they've been lied to, and they think that he's really God and that they're going to serve him for all eternity. They might, but it's going to be in hell, and it's going to be a very unpleasant place to be. But see, that's what people don't understand. When we are tied to God Almighty, and that's why, see, the pineal gland gets into all the different things as far as what the ancients taught and everything else. The pineal gland was used to be called our third eye. It was like our interlocking mechanism into the next dimension. And one of the things they do to the pineal gland now is fluoride calcifies the pineal gland. They know that. They don't want us to have spiritual insight. That's why they want us to have calcified pineal glands. And see, and this is the thing that's so subtle about what they do. It's like you said on that one show, Doug, you said everything they do is interlocking. Everything they do is like planned out. They know exactly what they're doing, and they do it in all these different venues all of the time. And whoever they are, well, they are the Luciferians. That's what they're planning on doing, bringing us under a one-world government, a one-world religion, worshiping Lucifer. And that's their plan. That's been their stated goal the whole time. I mean, look at the writings by Albert Pike. And what he did is the Confederate War General and his Morals and Dogma that he wrote about the Masonic lodges and what they do, and that they are able to tap into the seething energies of Lucifer. I mean, I'm not making any of this stuff up. I mean, I try to read 2 to 3 books a week. And the craziest thing is that if you just start reading, I mean, here right beside me, I've got the America's Nazi Secret, The Unseen Hand, The Holographic Universe, The Rise of the Fourth Reich by Jim Marrs, and one of the best books you're ever going to read, Brotherhood of Darkness by Stan Monteith, who just died a few months back, and Apollyon Rising, 2012. These are the books that are right behind me at my desk right now. If we were on Skype, you'd see them. The point is, you can't just believe the stuff that you're hearing on the media. Verify it for yourself while the Internet still works. Because the Internet right now is the ability that we have to dethrone this new world order, to expose them for who they are, and to stand firm in Jesus Christ. That's what the Internet's allowing us to do right now. And if they take it away from us, we'll be right back in the dark like we were. But now enough of us are awake, Doug and Joe, that I hope and pray to God that we continue to at least do it on an individual basis like the forefathers did in 1776, when I think 3% of them had enough of the tyranny of England, and they said, you know what, we're not going to take this anymore. And I don't want a bloodful revolution because we can't win against their super weapons they've got anyhow and their stupid biologicals. I want them to be taken out by elected officials, and I want us to restore our country and our Constitution, and I want our country back, and I want our God back in charge, and not this seething energy of Lucifer nonsense that Pike talked about in Morals and Dogma. And the sad part about it is, if we as Christians will stand in the aggregate and pray every day, we can take our country back. But we've got to learn to do that as a family every single day. Where 2 or you or more gather together, you'll send 10,000 to flight. And these demons can't take all of this stuff. These fallen angels, these demons, these aliens, whatever you want to call them, whatever suits your boat, floats your boat to make you realize we're telling you the truth tonight. Name it what you want to name it, but that's what it is. They're not from around here. Let's say that. They're not from around here, and we don't want them here.
Yeah, absolutely, and wow, you've given us so much information tonight. Number one, I do hope that you'll come back and come back frequently, because the vastness of your information is beyond the pale. Hopefully, you'll do that.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I told you this the last time I was on. I was on with Coast to Coast, and I had you guys on the following week. That we had a national evangelist that we tried to do some fundraising for him, and all the people that called my office, your people were the most educated and the nicest people that we've ever had call my office in my 35 years of being in business, and that's a fact.
Wow.
You got some great people listening to your show.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, I love our audience. They're very well educated, and I've met many of them at conferences. Joe and I have met them, and I got to tell you, they're kind of above, and they know what's going on. I got to that out.
Folks, Mr. Ted Broder has given out his phone number. Get a pen and paper. You can call him and his staff and talk to them about your health needs, and they will help you as best they can with advice on how to break through whatever condition it is you're going through. That is 1-800-726-1834. That's 1-800-726-1834. The information is up on our website at hagmanandhagmann.com.
Right. And so if somebody's a diabetic or someone's got specific health problems, you will guide them to the product that they would need to take to
we want them to work with their medical doctors as far as changing any medication doses. We always tell them that to start with, but they will tell them exactly from a nutritional standpoint what can be done to help maintain healthy blood sugars. And to answer your question earlier, yes, I would love to come back on your show on a regular basis. This is one of my favorite shows I've ever done in my whole life, because I actually get to tell the truth and not everybody thinks I'm crazy. There you go.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've got about 30 seconds left in the program. I just want to say thank you so much for your gift of time, and I know it's wow, it's a real pleasure to have you on. Your wife is just a fantastic woman, supportive of you, I take it, and also 100% on board with you, correct?
100%. I could not have done this without my wife. She is the love of my life. We've been married for 31 years, and I am blessed beyond measure knowing her, having been married to her, and I thank God Almighty for every single day of my life. Wow.
What a great way to close out the program, a testament to, a real man. I'll tell you that, folks, a real man, and there you go. Ted, thanks so much for being on our program tonight, and thanks for all of the information you shared. Folks, you're going to have to listen to this 2, 3, 4 times. Please download this. Send it to your friends. Let people know about Ted Broer and his website, healthmasters.com, bodybyted.com, linked to hagmanandhagmann.com. Ted, thank you so very much for being part of our show tonight.
Absolutely.
Guys, it's my pleasure as always to be on. Thank you for having me.
All right, buddy. Yeah, we're at the close of the program. Folks, that'll do it for us tonight. Until tomorrow, God bless. Stay safe. Ted, thanks, buddy. You take care. Talk soon.
Thank you, sir.
Tomorrow night, we'll have Stan Dale with us, as we do every Tuesday night. Until then, God bless, stay safe, have a great evening.